Welcome back to another FPL stream. This will be the penultimate deadline stream of the season and the final double game week. So let's get through all your questions and comments. And despite being towards the end, there are still a lot of issues for many of us heading into this game week. And it's very important we nail this because this could be our last opportunity to get that green arrow and maybe secure a certain rank that you're maybe aiming for throughout the entire season. So let's get straight into your questions from the beginning. Be sure to drop this video a like and also subscribe to the channel. And we're just going to get straight into your questions as we always do. And let's see how many we can go for, maybe break a record. But yeah, we always try to go for every single question put here. So try to be patient and I'll do my best to answer. Dergish says, hi Dylan, not sure if I used a free hit in 37 or 38. Yeah, so you did put your team ID. I'm not so sure if I'll be able to bring it up on screen and talk you through it, in details. But I think for most people, I think the Game Week 37 free hit is best. But it's very difficult for me to say. You could always put your team through in the live chat and I can do my best to answer you there. JP says, hi Dylan, do you think Stones can cover Shaw points or do I sell Dalot to Shaw? The thing is with Dalot to Shaw, the only reason why you'd expect Shaw to outscore Dalot comfortably is because Shaw will start both games and Dalot isn't a certainty for that. Yeah, I think Stones can cover Luke Shaw, but when I look at Man United, they probably have a very good chance of at least one clean sheet, maybe even two. Whilst you can say the same about Man City, John Stones is a bit like Dalot, where he might not start both games. It could be the Chelsea game where he is in the starting 11 and then he's dropped to the bench for the second game against Brighton. So I think he can cover the points, but realistically, I think Shaw outscores both of them, but maybe not by enough to maybe warrant a -4 hit to go from one to the other. Start Kepa or Raya. I'm currently starting Kepa. Two really tough games, especially against Man City, but yeah, I still think I'm going to start him. And, a double game week compared to Raya facing Tottenham away. I mean, to be honest, strange things have happened. Raya could do well, but that's what I would do. I'd start Kepa. Wasn't selling one of them to De Gea for a -4. Yeah, I don't like selling goalkeepers for hits, but I think in that situation, it could be worth it. I think De Gea outscores both of them. Or should I say each of them by 4 points or more. So yeah, I think that could be worthwhile, even though I'm not a big fan of taking hits for goalkeepers, especially with only 2 game weeks left of the season. Do you think going Rashford to Bruno is worth it? I think for free it is. For a -4, I'm not so sure because Rashford should be available for the second game, even if he misses out against Bournemouth, and he could do very well in that game. So yeah, I think it is ultimately, worth a punt, but for hits, I'd be a bit unsure, similar to the De Gea situation. Cylindra says, hey Dylan, choose one of 3 options. 1, is it worth selling Martinelli, Zinchenko, Willock to Fernandes, Shaw, and Mahrez, Foden for a -8? Well, is it worth it? The answer would be yes. 2, Martinelli and Willock to Fernandes and Foden, Mahrez for a -4. I probably would do... I mean, I like the -8 option with Shaw as well included. To be fair, I'd probably go for the -8 option. The only downside to that is you're losing an additional 4 points, of course, but it really depends on which defender or player would start if you don't go for Shaw with the -4 option. So that's what I'd need to know in order to, to really determine what is ultimately the best. But, on paper, looking at the transfers you're buying and how many points I think they get, I think the -8 option looks the best. Number 3, Martinelli and Zinchenko, Kepa to Shaw, De Gea, Mahrez, Foden for a -4. Yeah, probably the first option for me. But once again, it depends about, which player you can start ahead of Shaw. Because if it's someone like Trent Alexander-Arnold, just go for the -4 option and start Trent. Mehdi puts his team as well. So 1, Ryan, Isak, -4 to De Gea, Alvarez. 2, Raya, Joelinton, Isak -8 to De Gea, Mahrez, Greenwood. I'd go for the -4 option there, Mehdi. I think that's the best option. Good morning, Laga, and to everyone else. Good to see you. And a huge shout out to Carlos for the very generous super chat. Thank you very much, mate. Hola, Crack Raya, Shaw, Trent, Estupinian, Trippier, Rashford, Matoma, Bruno, McAllister, Haaland, Wilson, Grealish, Botman, Jota. No sé si meter a Grealish de titular o venderlo por Mahrez o tal vez Jota por Julián. Sí, está bien, los dos transferencias. Es difícil. Para mí, yo vendería a Jota por Julián Álvarez. Yo prefiero Mahrez antes que Grealish, pero no sé. Para mí, Jota a Julián Álvarez es una mejor transferencia, así que yo iría por eso. Y también para mi equipo, porque yo no hice mis transferencias todavía, estoy pensando en comprar Julián Álvarez por Isaac, así que yo iría por eso. Y tu equipo está bien. Y también no está mal comprar a Mahrez, pero prefiero comprar a Julián Álvarez. Gracias por la pregunta y la donación, muy generoso. Muchas gracias. Tahir says, who is the best goalkeeper for both Game Week 37 and 38? David De Gea, without a shadow of a doubt. Alex Krysek, 21 says, hi mate, would you do Grealish to Mahrez for a -8? I think I just about would. The big doubt with that is that Mahrez, is he going to start both games? Because if he only starts one, then of course you might be thinking, is it worth that hit? But I have a sneaky feeling Mahrez will outscore Grealish maybe by 4 or more. So I'd say yes. It is reluctant, I'm a bit reluctant in saying it, but I'd probably go for it. Bench 1, Trippier, Trent, Isak, Rashford. I wouldn't bench Rashford because, yeah, he might miss out the first game against Bournemouth, all that talk about yesterday. He wasn't spotted in the bus. There was a video circulating online, but I think from those it'd be Trippier. You can see my starting 11 currently and my bench, I've got Trippier there. I think it'd be close between him and Isak, but I'd definitely start Trent and Rashford, and then it's between the 2 Newcastle players, and I currently favour Isak, but yeah, he has been very frustrating, at least in Game Week 36. Diogo says, I have no idea what to do this week. Yeah, I'm in a similar predicament. I talked about this in my team selection video. I think if I were to make a transfer, the best move for me is to buy Alvarez for Isak. But the fact that Newcastle playing Leicester, that is really appealing to me. And Curtis Jones scored 2 goals from the left-hand side, and Isak could do something similar in this regard. But yeah, it's a tricky one this week, I think, for a lot of us. Toboga says, buy Rashford or Estupinian for a -4. Good question. I mean, Estupinian has Man City as part of the double, and as a defender, yeah, Brian could win the game or get a draw, but you wouldn't expect them to keep a clean sheet, so you're really relying on attacking returns there from Estupinian, whereas with Rashford, there's a very good chance that he only starts 1 game and he misses out entirely against Bournemouth. It's tricky. If I had to pick one, it'd still be Rashford, but I'm not so sure if I would do it for a -4 either way, to be honest, yeah. If I were to buy any defender this week, it'd be Luke Shaw or a Man United defender for a -4. And as a midfielder, maybe I'd be a bit more inclined to go for a Man City midfielder like De Bruyne, even though he's also a doubt heading into the first game. You've also got Mahrez and Gundogan. Should I keep Martial? I probably wouldn't. If you can move him to Alvarez, even Callum Wilson / Isak or someone else like that, then I would do it. But look, Martial could actually be a really good option for the first game with Rashford potentially missing out. I guess hit the translate button. Unfortunately, you can't do that with a video. Maybe in the future you can. Francis says, rumours Matoma could be benched. Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me at all. You saw how much De Zerbi's been rotating recently against Newcastle after a really big result against Arsenal. A lot of rotation against Newcastle, and they also did it against Everton. And you can see the drop-off in performance when they drop certain key players like Colwill, McAllister as well in certain games. But yeah, it's possible. I think Matoma, he's been playing every single game. He's technically blanked in the last 7 matches, so it wouldn't surprise me at all. The hope is that he starts against Southampton, and then if he were to be benched, it'd be against City. But he could do one in either game, but you always look at that Southampton game as the one with the higher ceiling. James says pick 2 to start, Eze, Matoma, McAllister. I know Eze's got the form, and he could do really well against Fulham, but double game week players and Matoma, McAllister, they've got Southampton in there. If they start that game, they've got a very good chance of hauling. Rashford or Fernandes? I'd say Fernandes this week based on the fact that he will start both games, whereas with Rashford, we don't have that certainty, and it's very likely he won't start the first game against Bournemouth. Dutta says, Mahrez for a -4 or Bruno for a -8. Mahrez for a -4 for me. Carlos says, ¿pondrías a Grealish de titular y en vez de quién? Sí, yo pondría a Grealish de titular y si voy a tu equipo de nuevo, yo lo metería por... es difícil, porque tienes muchos buenos jugadores ahí. Sí, quizás por Trippier. No tengo mucha confianza en esa decisión, pero creo que pondría a Grealish por Trippier. Grealish to Mahrez and Isak to Alvarez -4. Shall I go with it? I probably would. Now, let's get this straight. Isak could do extremely well against Leicester. I'm not going to deny that. And that's why I'm in 2 minds about making that move myself, even for free. But I think overall, those 2 players you're bringing in should outscore the ones you're selling by 4 points or more, which is ultimately what you're looking for. So I think it is worth it. And it's completely up to you if you go for it or not, and if you should do it. But I think it's a good set of transfers. Islam Gaziev says, Eze and Estupinian in for a -4, Trippier and March out. Yeah, I like that actually. March is still a doubt, of course, and Eze's been in great form. He's actually one of the highest point scorers in the last 5 or 6 game weeks, which is incredible to see. I was talking a lot about him in the Game Week 32 free hit. Unfortunately, blank there against Everton, but he has been hauling before and since then. So yeah, he's a good option. And Estupinian, you saw what he can do. He's got a very high ceiling, of course. He can be frustrating on the odd occasion, but he is a very good defender to buy. As I said earlier to someone else, For me, the best defender to buy this week is probably Luke Shaw or another Man United defender. But Estupiñán is still up there as one of the better options, so it's good. Transfer Tony for Alvarez for -4. Yeah, and Tony's obviously suspended for 8 months now until January 2024. And I think Alvarez could do very well. We started the last 4 Premier League games in a row, and I think he'll start at least one of this double game week, especially if De Bruyne misses out. Alvarez is a very likely replacement for the Belgian. Get rid of Stones for sure and bring in Alvarez -4. Not so sure. The problem with Stones is that you just don't know if he's going to start both games, and realistically he won't. But for a -4 hit, it depends which striker you're selling for Alvarez, because if it's Isak or Wilson, I'd be a bit worried. Maybe not worried is the word, but I'd be a bit more cautious about the move. But ultimately, I think Shaw's a great transfer, and Alvarez could do very well this week. I'm looking to also buy him potentially. So yeah, good transfers. Even for a -4, it should be worth it. But I'm just curious who the striker is, the one you're selling. Grealish to Mahrez -4, Isak to Wilson -4. I would rather do Grealish to Mahrez -4, to be fair. Should I move Foden to Mahrez? Yeah, especially for free. I would do that. It's not my final team. As I said, in my team selection video, I am considering buying Alvarez for Isak. Because, look, if I had a free United slot, for example, my transfer this week would be very simple. I would sell either Kepa or Raya to David De Gea, and, I'm in a good position there. I've only got one free transfer, so it's kind of difficult for me to move around my team structure without taking hits, and I don't think some hits are necessary. So if I want to just make one free transfer, apart from Rashford to Mahrez, I could just consider Isak to Alvarez. That's what I'm really looking at the moment. Then when you look at defender transfers, not so sure. Could be Trippier to Stones or a Man City defender like Ruben Dias, but I think really I want to target Man City offensively, and that's what I could do. An alternative is Kepa to Edison. I'm not so sure if it's worth it. Welcome up, Yasul. Staying up till late. How are we doing? I'm doing well. What about you? I'm kind of the opposite. I'm sleeping early, for my standards anyway, and waking up early all of these days. But it's good to see you once again. Alvarez from -4 or start Wilson? I'd probably start Wilson in that case. I think that's what I would do. Yeah, as I just said a while ago, the most likely transfer for me this week is Isak to Alvarez, but I could even roll. I could even do Rashford to Mahrez, for example, and Kepa to Edison. Those are the most likely transfers. And also, like I said, I could just roll. I don't see myself doing anything else this week. I'm not really that, how do I say this? I'm not that open to taking hits, especially with only 2 game weeks left in the season. So yeah, I think I'm just sticking with a free transfer or just rolling. Kane or Alvarez this game week? I'm on the wild card. It would be Alvarez this week, but Kane has been fantastic. We all know this. Noah Solanke selling for Alvarez. Fair enough. I think I'd do it. Kata. Dylan had a superb game week, 36 of 128 points. That's a really good score. I went from 33k to 15k. Start 2 of Trippier, Stones, Isak and Wilson for this game week. I'd definitely start Wilson on his current form, and then you're looking at either Isak or Stones, in my opinion. I'd probably go for Stones and Wilson in the end, but look, do not underestimate Isak. Wilson has been getting the better of him since game week 29, we could say, but Isak could do extremely well against Leicester, so maybe you could even consider starting both Newcastle forwards and then benching Stones and Trippier. That is also not out of the question, but I would start Stones for his double game week. I think he's got a really likely clean sheet if he starts either game, really. And as for Isak or Wilson, yeah, I'd go for Wilson at this moment in time. Abir puts his team still with Estupiñán, Trent, Shaw, Rashford, Fernandes, Salah, McAllister, Mahrez, Haaland, Alvarez. Not sure about Rashford. Any changes, suggestions? Yeah, we're not all kind of certain about Rashford at the moment. He's a big doubt for the first game. He wasn't seen on the team bus, which is obviously a big issue. But really, which players would you buy for him? Maybe Gundogan? Maybe someone else like Foden? I think I'd just keep things as they are. You've got a very good team for this game week. I'd say in some ways better than my own team, which I'm quite happy with. So, yeah, I think your team looks really solid. You've got triple up in Man City attack already. Yeah, I think I just keep things as they are. And really what you need to finalise is the captaincy. And if you're happy to captain Haaland, I think that's fair enough. He's probably the best captaincy option once again. Rashford or Bruno? Probably Bruno, just because I don't think Rashford plays in the first game, based on the video circulating yesterday online and all the news we got, of course, from Ten Hag as well. Hi Dylan, is Undav worth a shout for this double game week? Yeah, the problem is he's also got Ferguson competing for that spot, Danny Welbeck, so he's not going to start both games. With Undav, you know he's going to start maybe one and get 20, 30 minutes in the other game, especially if Brighton are chasing the game. So you've got to be aware of that. Enciso's another good option who plays as a winger but is classified as a forward in this game. So yeah, he is worth a shout. Same you could say about Mitrovic or Eze in the midfield, but yeah, he is worth a punt. I just prefer other Brighton players in general. Kepa and Trippier play? I think so. Trippier's obviously a doubt. He's picked up a knock against Brighton. I think he should be fine. And as for Kepa, a lot of Chelsea fans with their predicted lineups suggest that Kepa will come back into the starting 11. Kepa or Raya? I'm going for Kepa. I think he'll come back into the side. I know Man City is a really tough one, but even if Kepa can get 1 or 2 points there, that'd be great. And then a clean sheet, I wouldn't rule it out against Man United, let's put it that way. A 0-0 wouldn't surprise me in that match, but you'd still give Man United the edge, of course, they are the better team. Foden to Mahrez -8 and captain. I like that, to be fair. I do like captaining Mahrez this week, but just like with Foden, not a guarantee to start both games. Now, if there were one midfielder apart from Gundogan, you could say that is, you know, he's got a chance of starting both. It would be Mahrez based on the recent lineups for Man City in the Premier League. Obviously, I'm not a big fan of taking a -8, but I think it is worth it. And as for a captain, I do like it. Elise to Matoma -4. Yeah, I think so. But just bear in mind, as I think Francis said earlier, there is a chance that Matoma is benched. De Zerbi's rotating quite a lot, and Mitoma is one of the only players that hasn't been rotated in this time. And maybe that'll continue until the end of the season, and Mitoma's kind of an undroppable player. But in my opinion, a benching is possible in the next 3 games remaining for Brighton. Grenier says Shaw, Gross and Isak or Trippier, Rashford and Enciso. It's a close one, but I would probably go for Trippier, Rashford and Enciso. No, I'd go for Shaw, Gross and Isak. I think Shaw and Isak already kind of make that trio a little bit better. Matt's Collectible says Isak's XGI is extremely low. He was so wide he was barely on the pitch. Yeah, in that game individually, you are right. His general stats have been good, but as I've shown you in some streams and videos, I think since Game Week 17, so since the restart, Wilson has better stats, but they are quite similar in certain regards. And over the course of the season, Wilson is significantly better, but he's got a lot more minutes and appearances as well, which plays a part. But yeah, against Brighton, I think it was kind of a conscious tactic there by Eddie Howe to have Isak create danger on the left-hand side and Wilson's just the focal point up front. So it is a bit of a shame, and I think that swing between Isak and Wilson is slightly harsh, but that's where the appeal of penalties comes in as well, because that was already the game changer against Leeds, and then the final nail in the coffin was delivered against Brighton there. Start Isak or Jesus? I think based on how I think both games go, I'd go for Isak. Jesus is still a good option. I like him against Nottingham Forest, but I think Arsenal will struggle more against Forest than Newcastle will against Leicester. Matty Lafort says thoughts on triple Brentford and triple Chelsea. I'm surprised, you know, which triple Chelsea you'd have really, you know, apart from Kepa, who may or may not even start at this point. I'm not sure which other players you have. I'll be honest, I'm not a big fan of triple ups in both teams at this moment in time. I'd be more inclined in Brentford, oddly enough, despite them not having a double, but yeah, I'd just be curious to see which players you have specifically. I'm guessing Ryan and Kepa are involved, but yeah, ideally you wouldn't have those, I'd say. Start Botman or White? Botman. I know Newcastle have been awful for clean sheets recently, but I think Forest will score. And with Leicester, it wouldn't surprise me if Newcastle win by 3 or 4, and it could be a clean sheet as well on top of it. Artie says bench McTen, Ferguson or Grealish. Close one. I'd probably bench Ferguson. I think McAllister starts both games in this double, and Grealish probably starts one, and the same could be attributed to Ferguson. So I'd probably bench Ferguson if I had to pick one. Isak to Alvarez and play one of Trippier and Isak or roll. I'm looking at something similar. So I think both options are viable, and I still haven't decided yet for my own team. So it's 50-50 for me. I'd maybe do the Isak to Alvarez transfer if it's free, but even, you know, I say that now, towards the end of the stream, I might not end up doing that move and just roll, which is basically the other alternatives you suggested. Grealish to Bruno, yeah, I would do that, especially for free. Best scoring goalkeeper to the end of the season. Well, we've only got 2 game weeks left. I think the best one on paper for me is David De Gea. I think he's the best one. Rashford or Grealish to Bruno for a -4? I'd rather do Grealish to Bruno and keep Rashford. I'm starting Raya. Good? I wouldn't say it's good, but look, Raya is one of the best goalkeepers this season, and a lot of his returns, especially since the World Cup, have come away from home. And Spurs, on their day, you know, they tend to score goals, but on the day they can be absolutely woeful and offer absolutely nothing, even with Harry Kane up front. So Raya saving a penalty or getting a 7-9 pointer wouldn't surprise me, but I think realistically we're looking at 2 or 3 points from Raya. But let's wait and see, I could be wrong. McAllister, Matoma, or Rashford, Anthony? If you're talking about as a duo, I'd go for the Brighton midfielders because I'm not a big fan of Anthony, and Rashford might not even start the first game. But if you're asking between each one, I would say for this double game week, I'd maybe say Matoma, despite the fact that I think he could be benched in one game, and I'd say Rashford. Remove Gakpo or Saka for Bruno? Yeah, Saka's been off form since, you could say, since the international break. So we're talking about late March, early April. He had one good game, I think, in that time against Southampton. He's got a high ceiling. He's been great all season, but it's a tricky one, I think. I'd probably remove Gakpo. I really like that fixture for Arsenal against Wolves in Game Week 38, and I think Saka could do well against Forest, but also don't rule out Saka being benched for Nelson against Forest and a bit of rotation there, but rather remove Gakpo, I think, on the face of it. Do I remove Salah for Bruno, KDB, and how to prepare for Game Week 38 considering I have no chips left and a lot of rotation can be expected? Well, that's always the issue with Game Week 38, and that's why for some people who still have the free hit, I always, tell them to at least consider using the free hit in Game Week 38, but I'd probably keep Salah, to be fair. I'm not a big fan of selling him. He's got 3 double-digit returns in a row. He's been great since Game Week 30, and he's the highest scoring midfielder in the game, as he tends to be. As good as Bruno and KDB are, KDB, I don't think he starts both games. He might not even start against Chelsea because of his knock they picked up against Real Madrid. And as for Bruno Fernandes, he's a great double game week player, and it could be worth a punt, but he still hasn't really set the world alight this season. In terms of FPL prospects, he's been a really good player overall with his chances created, but if Rashford misses out the first game, you're just looking at it and who is going to score the chances that Bruno creates. So I'd probably keep Salah. And as for how do you prepare for Game Week 38, I think one of the things you could do is keeping Salah, for example, and also keeping a solid base of Liverpool. So also keeping Trent Alexander-Arnold, and then you can even add a third Liverpool player, because I think that Southampton away fixture is probably the one to target in Game Week 38. Grealish to Bruno for a -4? I'd say yes, pretty much. I have Odegaard, switch or hold? I'd probably hold, but if you can go to a Mahrez or a Gundogan, I'd be very inclined to do that move. I guess this week is a roll. For a lot of people it is, but I'm still considering a transfer. It could be Alvarez coming in. Edison or Raya? It would be Edison, but my prediction is that he starts against Chelsea and Ortega could come in for the second game. No news of Rashford starting. If I get anything, I'll let you know. And of course, I'll keep an eye on the live chat because sometimes people see it before me. Foden captain, why not? I mean, he hasn't been great this season. He has a high ceiling. No one denies that, but it's difficult to really back him when he doesn't get consistent starts. And you've also got probably better alternatives in the Man City team. Trippier or Stones to start? I'd rather start Stones. Your predicted double game week differential top scorer and lowest zone scorer. Off the top of my head, I'd say Riyad Mahrez is, someone I think could do really well. Yeah, you mentioned him just now, and Mitoma. And lowest top owned scorer. Yeah, with Mitoma, he's a bit more of a template pick, so to speak, but I think from differentials, it would be Mahrez. Free hit 37 or 38 says Dergish. Raya, Trippier, Stupinian, Trent, Rashford, Salah, Mahrez, Matoma, McAllister, Isak, Haaland, bench, Iverson, Botman, Gay, Greenwood. You've got a good team for this week, to be fair, but I'm kind of looking at it now. With a free hit, you improve your goalkeeper. That's for one. You could also improve on Trippier, so to speak, and you could even go for a double up in Man United defensively, or even go for 2 Man United attackers. It's tough because in Game Week 38, there's a lot of rotation, but then are you, how do I say this, are you going to also get that bang on in terms of your free hit team for Game Week 38 and nailing on the players that start and all of that? So it kind of goes both ways. I'd probably free hit now, Dergish. That would be my opinion, because you improve your goalkeeper significantly. You also could improve your defense, add more Man United coverage, and also maybe even improve on Isak. You can go for another Man City attacker. I know you've already got Haaland and Mahrez, which is really impressive, but you could add a third one as well. So I'd probably go for the free hit there, Dergish. Matoma's a better pick than McAllister. I'd say McAllister is, obviously, as you say, he's on penalties, and he probably will start both games. And with Matoma, I think he's less likely to. But I don't know, with Matoma, he has been disappointing. I think his best game was against Arsenal, but he still blanked in that game. So yeah, he has been disappointing, but I think he'll deliver in Game Week 37. Is Lindelof a good move? I think he's okay. I mean, I'd rather go for Shaw if you can, or David De Gea in goal, and even Diogo Dalot, who might be a bit less nailed, but yeah, Lindelof's alright, I think. Grealish stay or out for Mahrez or Gundogan? I'd probably sell him to Mahrez if you can, and Gundogan, of course, has been in great form too. I've done Salah and Willock to Bruno and Mahrez as destined for greatness. I can easily get Salah back in for Game Week 38 thoughts. That's completely fine by me then, to be fair. I said in my team selection video, I think Salah scores against Villa, but he might not get another double-digit return. And with Bruno Fernandes, he's obviously more likely to on paper. And you can always bring Salah back in, and you might even captain him next week in Game Week 38, so looks fine. Hey Dylan, triple captain player this week. Apart from Haaland, which is boring, I would probably look at the following players. Riyad Mahrez, Bruno Fernandes. It would have been Rashford, but with his doubt for the first game, I'm a bit less keen. Anyone else? From single game week options, I think Salah's worth mentioning, but I'm not sure if I'd triple captain him. So yeah, I'd say Haaland, Mahrez, or Bruno Fernandes would be my top three off the top of my head. I think bright midfielders are a little bit lower on the pecking order. And that also answers that question too. Bench 1, Joelinton or Trippier? I'd bench Joelinton. Salah and Grealish to KDB and Bruno. It looks great on paper, but just bear in mind that KDB is a big doubt for the first game, you know, and even if he starts there, I don't see him starting both games in the double game week, so just bear that in mind, but even in just one start, De Bruyne could be absolutely fantastic. Havertz or Felix? Probably Felix, but not a big fan of either. I have Wilson and Isak, sell one to Alvarez. I'd rather sell Isak at this moment in time. He's wider. Wilson's on penalties, as we just saw, and Wilson's also in incredible form. You just don't see him being dropped at the moment, so I'd keep Wilson and sell Isak at this moment in time. Sell KDB for Bruno -4. Tricky one, that. I'm not so sure if I would do that for a -4. Let me know a bit if you have got, you know, any links or anything from a reliable source, but I appreciate the message. I'll also have a quick look and see if I can get anything here. Let's see if I can get any. So just bear with me for a second. I'm checking a few platforms and seeing if I can get the news. Maybe you're just saying based on the video that was circulating yesterday where Rashford wasn't spotted in the team. Let's see if we can get this. Yeah, I haven't seen anything yet. But if you do see a link, let me know. Put it in the live chat and we can go for it. So I'll leave that for now. Bench 1, Joelinton Trippier. I've done that. Are you planning a goalkeeper move? I was talking about this in the team selection video. It is probably one of my biggest weaknesses in my squad, but the goalkeeper I really want is David De Gea. I can't get to him without taking a hit. And I don't think it's worth it, you know, selling one of Rashford or Bruno to then get David De Gea in goal. Even if I were to bring in Mahrez as well, which looks really appealing, for a -4 hit, I'm not a big fan of it. So I'm looking at it, and realistically, I could only move Kepa to Edison, I'd say, but he's not guaranteed to start both games. So I might not even do a transfer in the end. The problem is in Game Week 38 too, I'd still need to make a goalkeeper transfer because I've got Raya facing Man City at home, and I've also got Kepa Arrizabalaga facing Newcastle at home. So that's where my issue lies. But obviously the big benefit of those two goalkeepers is they can haul even if they concede, and they are two of the best goalkeepers in FPL this season. But at the moment, I think I'm holding. But you are right, it is an issue. Will Stone start? I think he starts against Chelsea, but will be benched against Brighton. Start Isak or Ferguson, please. Isak. I'll probably stick with Isak with that fixture. Canate plus Fernandes in for a -4 or Trent in. I think Fernandes is a great option to buy in this double game week, but... And yeah, Canate can cover Trent in terms of the clean sheets, but Trent's got the bonus points and the assists over him. I'd maybe go for the -4 option, but realistically you want Trent, I have to say that. I really want to be sure Alvarez starting or not. Well, we don't know anything, is the simple answer. Apart from the fact that De Bruyne is a doubt, and if he is going to be on the bench against Chelsea, then Alvarez has a good chance of starting that game. And also, the Argentine has started the last 4 Premier League games for Man City. So I think Alvarez has a good chance of starting at least one of this double, but realistically, you want a bit of confirmation that he starts both, and then you'd be very intrigued in buying him. Start 2, Rashford, Wilson, Grealish, or Kane. Never bench Harry Kane, in my opinion. I'd probably start Rashford and Kane. And benching Wilson, I know, sounds absolutely crazy, and he's got a better fiction than Harry Kane, but yeah, just don't bench Harry Kane would be my simple answer. Triple captain, Haaland or Fernandes? Probably Haaland for me, but if you want to go different, you're chasing rank. I like the appeal of Fernandes, of course, but who do I think scores more points? Probably Haaland, unfortunately. Is Edison to De Gea an option? Yeah, I think so. If you can do it for free, I'd go for it. Enciso and Bruno or Alvarez and Mahrez? Alvarez and Mahrez looks better. Play Akanji or Trippier? I would play Akanji. Mitoma or Isak? I would go for Mitoma. Bench one? I don't like it. Probably McAllister, but as I said before, I think McAllister starts both games, and I have a feeling Mitoma could be benched in one of them. So if that also plays a part in your thinking, expected minutes and stuff like that, and if you share my opinion, then it might be better for you to bench the other player instead and start McAllister. But for me, I would start Mitoma. Isak or Wilson? Well, Wilson at this moment in time. That decision to go for Isak over Wilson cost me 17 points, and also, obviously, I would have captained Wilson too. So yeah, that was obviously a bit of a shame. But yeah, I think Wilson at this moment in time, he's the most informed striker, you could say, in the last 6-7 games. What City players to get? Apart from Haaland, I'd probably say Alvarez, Mahrez would be the ideal ones. And then at the back, maybe Ruben Dias / Akanji. Just based on my prediction on who's the most likely to start in both games. At least in terms of defenders. With the midfielders and attackers, it's literally so difficult to predict. Aisha says, Grealish stay or out for Mahrez or Gundogan? I would sell him to Mahrez. I think I answered this already. Start Stones or Trippier? I'd go for Stones. Bench boost template? Not too sure about that one, to be fair. Maybe I can go through FPL.team in a little bit. So I'm going to go through different screens now, and we'll get to the bench boost that you asked me, because it's kind of an unpopular topic, but there's still people out there who might need a bit of help with that, so that's fair. So let's go through the fixture ticker for one of the final times this season. According to Fantasy Football Hub, Man United are top. They've obviously got the double now and a good fixture in 38 to round off the season. Brighton, Man City, Arsenal and Everton complete the top 5 of the fixture ticker. Those at the bottom include Brentford, Southampton, Aston Villa, Nottingham Forest, and maybe relegation-bound Leicester. So that is the fixture ticker, and you can see those in the mid-table as well, like Chelsea, Liverpool, Spurs, and Newcastle. And then if we go to predicted points, Bruno Fernandes is top of any player with 12.5. Haaland is second with 12, and then you've got Rashford, De Bruyne, and Mahrez. I think the news on Rashford being a doubt for the first game and being flagged does put him down a little bit. Otherwise, he could be in the top 2, maybe even in first position in this algorithm. So De Bruyne and Mahrez complete the top 5. Then you've got Foden, McAllister, Gundogan, Mitoma, and Ruben Dias there completing the top 10. So as you can see, a big focus on Man United and Man City, with Brighton being third in terms of those double game week players and teams. And you've also got Chelsea, who are nowhere to be seen here in this top 10. Then we look at the predicted price rises and changes. So Gundogan, Fernandes, Wilson, Mahrez, Martial, McAllister, and Ciso, Gross, all projected to go up eventually, especially those that I mentioned at the beginning, like Gundogan. And then when you look at predicted price falls, Martinelli, Rashford, Tony, March, Trippier, Grealish, etc. You've got Kepa Arrizabalaga as well, who's a popular sell this week, Nick Pope, and a few others like Ben Mee. And actually with Martinelli, something that we haven't covered, just in case you're not aware, he will miss the rest of the season, so the remaining 2 games after that challenge by Caicedo. So Martinelli is out, and he won't feature at all. So Trossard's very likely to start. He could be a nice punt for you to round off the season, but Martinelli is not available. One more thing I wanted to show you before we go to the bench boost team that I want to show you very briefly. It might not be the best team you ever see, is a a comparison of Mahrez versus Gundogan in terms of stats. This is over the course of the season, and of course Gundogan has probably started more games and he's got more goals, but you can see here Mahrez is the more creative one, and you can see that in the last 4 game weeks where he's got an assist in each single one of those games, whilst Gundogan is scoring the braces in the last 2 games, of course, and that's where you can see the big difference. Gundogan 13 big chances to Mahrez's 8. Big chances created, Mahrez leads in that, as well as key passes, and he's got the better expected assists. Shots in the box quite similar, but Gundogan leads there too. More shots overall and more on target. So both really good options, I think, for this double. I would rather go for Mahrez though. I think he's been a bit more consistent from an FPL perspective in the last 4 or 5 game weeks. Of course, Gundogan's been explosive against Leeds and Everton. But let me know your thoughts in the live chat. Who are you going for between these two? It's a shame that De Bruyne is once again a doubt with that knock. Otherwise, he would be a very popular transfer this week. or at least even more popular than he already is. Let's now go to FPL.team and show you what we can do with the bench boost. That would be ideal. So, if I were making a bench boost team, let's see what we can do. I would do something like this. So, David De Gea in goal. I think I would stick with Kepa, actually. So, I'd do something like this. Yeah, too many players from Man United, of course. No issues there. We can easily remove one of these players. Might sound a bit crazy, but I might remove Marcus Rashford just because I don't think he starts the first game. And let's not forget, he's only started. I mean, he's only scored 2 goals in the Premier League since February, which is obviously quite astounding when you put it like that. So Luke Shaw, Stupinian, I think that's pretty standard. Rashford we can keep. Let me know, would you go for De Bruyne here? I mean, it's not completely set in stone, but I might just go for him just in case. I think I'd go for something like this. I mean, I would like a Man City defender as well. But, yeah, I think this is what I could go for. Estupinian, Mitoma, McAllister. Yeah, I mean, this looks pretty decent. Trippier. Let's see. So this will be the issue, kind of finalising a few key spots here in this team. So who do we replace Trippier and Botman with? It's quite a tricky one. We've already got the triple ups in Brighton, which I'm quite happy with, but I'm also open to going for an Enciso or a Ferguson. Even an Unduff is a decent punt to consider. That is quite tricky. I think this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go for Ruben Dias. I think he's the most likely to start both games, if not Akanji. So go for him. Instead of De Bruyne, we'll keep Salah. And let's see now. And then instead of Rashford, this will be the big issue. You could even take a single game week punt, as we say. The thing is, I'd really like Mahrez this week, so I think I'm going to put Mahrez in here, and then it might require one of Alvarez or Diaz dropping out. So yeah, that's going to be tricky. Greenwood, of course, can be upgraded. That is a tricky one. Yeah, I think it's just very difficult, I think, to finalize 2 or 3 spots in this team, but generally this is kind of the bench boost team I would be looking for. That is actually tricky. I'll try to complete this fairly soon just so we can get back to the questions, but yeah, I'm in a bit of 2 minds about this one. And we've only got 5.3 million in the bank there, which isn't great. I have to consider a cheaper defender in general to then facilitate the other moves. And that is the problem, of course, of going for Fernandes, Salah, Haaland, and Trent Alexander-Arnold. That is the big issue there as well. So we can go for something like this, maybe downgrade Trent in order to fund other moves too, which isn't ideal, but it might be necessary for a bench boost at least. So we can go for that. And anything else we could do? Yeah, there's a few spots that I'd probably have to iron out, and I'd probably overthink it a bit too much. But generally, you get my idea of what kind of bench boost I'd be looking for. And if you need funds, then in this case, I would consider downgrading either Salah or Trent Alexander-Arnold. It's very difficult to have both of them and then have a De Bruyne, Bruno Fernandes, Haaland, etc. But that is kind of the general feeling of it. So let's go back to my team. I still haven't made a transfer. And I might make one towards the end by Alvarez for Isak, but nothing set in stone yet. Replacement for March, I mean, around a similar price. Of course, McAllister and Matoma come to mind, but if you're looking for single game week options as well, I would heavily consider Eze. I think he's been in great form too. Free hit template as well. I have done a free hit team video, and I'd say it's quite template too, to be fair, but I wouldn't really change too much about that. Maybe you could include Mahrez in that midfield now, and a few things like that. So Mahrez comes in for De Bruyne, and then you can make a few other changes elsewhere, but most of it would stay the same, I think. Do my free hit, should I go for De Gea or De Bruyne or Gundogan? I think Gundogan's more likely to start both. Of course, De Bruyne is more explosive generally, and a better FPL asset when he gets the minutes. It's so tough to call. And honestly, without information about De Bruyne, you know, knowing enough about his injury or his knock, it's difficult, but I'd say De Bruyne if you can. Can I start Martinelli for the bench max point? Well, Martinelli is injured, so he's not going to give you any points whatsoever. Yeah, so I'm not too sure what else to say about that. Who to buy if I sell Tony? Alvarez, if you're looking for a double gaming player. Welcome, Genius Gamer. Isak to Alvarez. Yeah, I'm looking at that, as I talked about my team selection video. Start Dallo or Trippier? I would start Dallo. What should I do with KDB? I'd probably hold. I know it's a bit of an uncomfortable one, but I'd probably hold. Mahrez, De Bruyne, or Gundogan? Mahrez. Mitoma or Mahrez? I would go for Mahrez this week. Should I sell Salah for Bruno Fernandes? I probably wouldn't. It's not a bad transfer, and Bruno has a double, of course, but I really like Salah for Game Week 38 too. So unless you can bring him back in for 38, be careful about that because I'd really recommend him for that game week. Start free between Isak, Wilson, White, Stones, Grealish. Stones, Wilson, and probably either Isak or Grealish. If you think Grealish starts both, I'd start him. But if it were me, I'd go for the 2 Newcastle forwards and Stones. Jota to Alvarez and Grealish to Bruno -4. Yes, simple answer. Mahrez, Alvarez, who's better for this week? I'd say Mahrez, but I'm not really in a position to get him unless I sell Rashford or someone like that, and I don't think it's worth it. Saka or Isak? Isak this week. Fernandes in for Willock or Fernandes in for Willock and Robertson in for Trippier. I wouldn't do Robertson. If it was Trent, then I'd say go for that, but Robertson, I think, is significantly worse than Trent this season, especially since Game Week 30, so I just do Fernandes in for Willock. I think that's the best move for you there, Nick. I have to sell Tony, who is the best buying overall option. I already have Haaland. I'd go for Alvarez. That's just my personal opinion. If you were to buy a striker this week, it would be that. Is Trent worth for -4? I think so. Not just for this week, but also for next week and the form he's in. He's been absolutely fantastic. Kepa to De Gea, steal or play Raya instead? Kepa to De Gea, if you can. If it's for free, go for it. Start Trippier, Solanke, or try Solanke to Undav. I don't mind Undav as a pun, but as I said, I don't expect him to start both, and you've also got Ferguson and Welbeck knocking on the door. You've got so many other options for Brighton, like Enciso, Matoma, McAllister, Estupinian, Steele. But yeah, I'd probably go for Trippier and start him. Steele to De Gea and Rashford to Matoma. I'm on a free hit, and you already know my team. That looks pretty good, Abir, to be fair. I don't mind that, and I don't think Rashford starts against Bournemouth. Having said that, Matoma might be benched in one of the games as well. Matoma, Rashford this week. Probably Matoma, simply because Rashford is a doubt for the first game, but it's a close one. Sell Isak to Alvarez or Martinelli to Mahrez and then bench Isak. That's a close one, Lager. I'm not really that comfortable with benching Isak, to be quite frank with you, but then you could say the same about selling him this week, and it'd be even worse with Wilson. I'd probably do Martinelli to Mahrez and bench Isak. Taking a punt on Garnacho. Fair enough. I mean, I'm not completely against that. He's got a good chance of starting the first game, especially if Rashford misses out. Mahrez or Foden or Gundogan? Mahrez there. Thoughts on Isak to Alvarez and Gundogan to Bruno for a minor... Oh no, Gakpo to Bruno. I think it's great. As simple as that. Not much more analysis required for it. I think Isak could do well this week, so that's the only gripe you could have with those transfers, but Alvarez and Bruno as a duo looks great. Should I do Grealish to Odegaard, Mahrez for -8? I like Odegaard for the final 2 game weeks of the season, especially against Wolves, where I think he'll haul, but I'd rather go for Mahrez this week. Does Isak Wilson to Alvarez for -4 worth it? I think so, but if I had Wilson, I don't think I'd do it. Would you start Kane or Grealish? Probably Kane. Don't own any Man United defence or David De Gea. I'm going to start Trippier and Kepa over them. Should I take a -8 to get Shaw, De Gea, or for one of them because I'm buying Mahrez and Fernandes? I mean, Trippier and Kepa, though, are fine. They're not bad options. I think Trippier could haul against Leicester if he starts, of course. And I think Kepa gets back in the side. And, of course, you don't really expect a clean sheet there. But even 2 pointers and maybe some save points in between as well. You know, if you can get 5-6 points, you know, that'd be pretty decent. And you wouldn't put it past Kepa if he gets those 2 starts. But, yeah, I'd probably take an additional hit to go for Shaw or David De Gea. And I'd rather go for Shaw simply for the attacking threat and the bonus points. And I don't like taking hits for goalkeepers generally. If KDB doesn't start, do I take a -4 hit for another Man City mid? The thing is, you might not know before the deadline. That's the issue. So, in my opinion, even if De Bruyne starts against Chelsea, which is maybe unlikely, I don't think he starts the other game as well. I think he only gets 1 start in the 2. So, if that puts you off, then it might be worth selling him. I have no money left in the bank. Yeah, but to be honest, that's not an issue for you, unless you want to go to Salah. But that's really something for next week instead. I'd probably hold Kevin De Bruyne, but I don't really expect him to start both games. Rashford and Grealish for Eze and Mahrez. I don't mind that at all, actually. Eze's been in great form. Mahrez has also shown some consistency. Yeah. My only issue is that Rashford still could do well in that 1 game against Chelsea. Porro or Van Dijk to start? Probably Van Dijk. Hey Dylan, Kepa to De Gea or Grealish to Bruno? Grealish to Bruno, I think, is the better move. It's a close one, though. Thoughts on Isak to Firmino? Not sure about that. I know it's going to be his final home game, but it doesn't guarantee him to start. You know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he will start and get that send off, but I'm not so sure. Unless you're really feeling it and confident, go for it. But I think Isak outscores him. Toast says free hit starting 11: Steele, Shaw, Trippier, Stupinian, Mahrez, Matoma, Rashford, Bruno, De Bruyne, Gundogan, Haaland, Wilson. Looks great once again with De Bruyne and Rashford. You could say. I'm not really convinced they start both games. And when I look at your backline, I know you're going for a double up in Man United offensively. That's great. I'm not too sure about a double up in Brighton defensively, especially when they face Man City. Southampton are a bit of a bogey team, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, it's a good team. I think it'll do well. There's a few things I'd probably change personally, and you can see in my video. So De Gea in for Steele, and then you can change a few other things as well here and there. I think in that free hit team video, I went for Edison, and that's simply because, like yourself, I went for both Rashford and Bruno. I'd be less inclined to go for that now, and you could even drop Rashford and consider something else entirely. I like Mahrez, and you've got a really good setup there. Yeah, it looks great, but there's probably just one or two things I'd maybe tweak, including the goalkeeper. Does Akanji outscore Trent this week? If he starts both, I'd say yes, but it's just really difficult to predict if he will or not. Rashford to Mahrez -4 worth it? I think so. It's really close because even with Mahrez, he's not guaranteed to start both games either. I think it's worth the punt, it's worth the risk, but I'd probably hold Rashford. Thank you, Triple B. I appreciate the kind words. Which chip is better, triple captain or bench boost for this game week? I have both. I'll be honest, mate, you know, I think for next season you need to use them a bit earlier because with only 2 game weeks left, it is a bit of a difficult one. And with the bench boost, it's typically best used in a double game week. This is, of course, the only double game week we have left. I don't know how your bench is looking like this week, but I would assume using the bench boost this week and then the triple captain next week. I mean, it could go either way, to be fair. I would use FPL.team, visualize your team in Game Week 38. If you've got a good bench there, use the bench boost in 38 and use the triple captaincy now on Haaland, Mahrez, Bruno Fernandes, a player like that. That's probably what I would do, but it really depends on your bench and how good it is in Game Week 37 and 38. It's difficult for me to say without knowing your team. Play Wilson or Trent? I would play Wilson. Is that right? It's so close. I'm benching Trent, who's not blanked in, what, how many games now? 7, 8 games? It's so difficult for me to say, but I'd probably... I think I'd play Wilson. Chasing rank, any suggestions? Saka or to Bruno or Mahrez? I would rather go to Bruno Fernandes, but Mahrez is a really good player as well. Already have Grealish. You could also consider Grealish to Mahrez and do Saka to Bruno. That could be something else as well. Yeah, I don't mind Jesus as a punt. But as I said earlier, I do prefer the Newcastle forwards over Jesus this week. I think the fixture's better. I think Arsenal might struggle against Forest. So that would be my issue. Bench who? Grealish or Wilson? Probably Grealish at this moment in time. Trippier or Stones? Stones. I'd start him. Why are people selling Grealish? I mean, it's quite an easy way to go to a Bruno Fernandes, a Mahrez, and maybe a few other midfielders of that ilk. And Grealish isn't guaranteed to start both, you could say. But with no Champions League until the 10th of June, you could argue he's just going to continue starting as he has been doing for most of the season. It's not set in stone. If you can only have one, Mahrez or Alvarez, it would be Mahrez. But the reason why I'm more likely to get Alvarez is because it's a bit, how do I say this? It's a bit more of an easier transfer for me. If I were to get Mahrez, I'd have to sell Rashford, and I'm not that keen on it. Triple captain, Haaland or Mahrez? Chasing? If you're chasing, then Mahrez would be worth the punt. Is taking a hit worth it? Depends on the players, but I think a -4 is still decent. Watkins and Grealish to Bruno and Alvarez for -4. Great transfers. I have no issues with that whatsoever. Callum Jr. says Grealish to Mahrez for a hit. I think I'd just about do it. You think Stones will play? I think he starts against Chelsea and he'll be benched against Brighton. Thank you, Sudindra, for the reminder. And to anyone watching, be sure to smash the like button, subscribe if you're new, share this video around with those that love FPL and use your fantasy. There'll be more content for Matchday 13, and that will be the Champions League final. And the plan is to do the usual stuff, the team selection, best limitless team, wildcard team if that's requested, and also the deadline stream 2 hours before the Champions League final potentially. And if not, I will show you or converse with you and see what's best. Start Stones or Trippier? Stones. Watkins and Grealish to Bruno and Alvarez? Yes. Hey Dylan, says Ethan, Rashford and Isak to Bruno and Greenwood for a -4, or short in for Stones and Trippier for my third United. Close one. I would go for short in for Stones. Probably the better move of the two, but you don't really need to sell Stones in my opinion. Play one, Trent, Wilson. You said Trent twice there, so I'm not so sure. If it's between Trent and Wilson, I'd probably start Wilson. Sell Martinelli, Isak, Ings to Kiwior, Bruno, Alvarez. I wouldn't go for Kiwior. He's been decent since coming into the side, but Arsenal have only kept one clean sheet. They conceded a late goal against Chelsea. They obviously, in the second half, got dismantled by Brighton. So, not so sure about Kiwior. But Bruno and Alvarez look good. Pick one, Mahrez, Gundogan or Alvarez, Mahrez. Nolly says Saka to Bruno, Stones to Shaw, Isak Wilson to Alvarez for a -8 hit. Good transfers. I don't think Stones to Shaw is necessarily worth a hit, though, especially with the other moves in mind, and Isak Wilson as well could be similar. I'd rather sell Isak than Wilson this week, but it could always backfire. I think you could just stick with a -4 and that would be fine. And maybe keep Stones. Trent or Trippier? Trent. You can see as well in my starting 11, I've currently benched Trippier. Do McAllister, Matoma start both games? I think McAllister starts both, but not Matoma. And that's just kind of a guess. Matoma hasn't been benched recently. There's a low rotation there by De Zerbi. Start Stones or Trent? It might sound crazy, and if Stones starts both, then it will backfire. But I'd probably go for Trent. What do you do with De Bruyne? I'd probably keep. It would be a shame if he doesn't start either game, and he has been pretty poor in double game weeks this season, actually. I don't think he's really delivered a big haul. Pick one, Mahrez, Gundogan, or Alvarez. We have covered this already. I've highlighted your message. I'm going to say Mahrez one more time, and that's it. Is it worth staying Eze over Rashford or Matoma? I think it might be worth starting him. The thing is, though, it's tricky. I'd probably still start Rashford and Matoma over him, though. If you have to bench one, Wilson or Isak? Isak, but it can backfire. Start Eze or Rashford? Rashford. Does Dalot start both? I think he starts one, but I could be wrong. Chasing captain, Mahrez over Haaland. Well, if you're chasing, then yeah, I would go for Mahrez. I'd go a bit different. I'm also looking to gain rank as well, but it's difficult for me because, you know, to get Mahrez in, it's going to be really difficult. I'd have to sell someone like Rashford, and I'm not too keen on that. It could even be for a hit. And that's why, you know, if I were to bring in an Alvarez, for example, I wouldn't captain him over Haaland necessarily. But with Mahrez, I think it's a bit different. Akanji or Walker? Akanji. Anthony or Bruno or Garnacho? Bruno Fernandes. KDB to Mahrez for a -4 hit to afford Salah next game week. Yeah, looks fine. I mean, KDB could always do really well in one game, but I'd go for that. Is Kane to Bruno worth a -4? Difficult because Kane's been fantastic this season, but I'd say yes, just about. What's some differential forwards for this week? In Ciso, Ferguson, even Undav's been mentioned a lot recently. The problem is nailing down that right Brighton forward. Apart from those, I'd say Alvarez is the best one. He's around 4.3% ownership, I think. I'm looking to buy him as well. Best single game week player? Probably Salah or Trent Alexander-Arnold. Miles says pick one, Trippier, Trent, Stones, Isak. I would pick... that's a difficult one, Jesus. It wouldn't be Trippier. He'd be the lowest, I think, of the lot. It's between Trent, Stones, and Isak, and I'd probably go for Trent. If it was Wilson, though, it'd be Wilson, based on the fact that he's playing down the middle and he's on penalties. I have David De Gea, Stupinian, Stones, and Trippier right now, so who would you bench if Shaw comes in for Stones or Trippier? I appreciate that, Ethan. I would bench... if Shaw comes in for Stones or Trippier... Yeah, because I was going to say Trippier's the one that I'd bench of the lot, but if you're buying Shaw in for Trippier, then I'm not so sure. I'd probably look to bench Stones instead and start Stupinian and Shaw. But yeah, I think from those, basically Trippier's the one that I'd look to bench. Is it worth transferring in Rashford or go for Anthony for Triple United? I still think it's worth transferring in Rashford, but obviously his appeal has gone down. Any news on Rashford and Kepa? Nothing that we haven't covered already. So Kepa obviously lost his spot against Mendy, or to Mendy, should I say, against Nottingham Forest. But I would expect him to come back in. A lot of Chelsea fans expect the same. Rashford has returned, you know, from his injury. He started training on Wednesday. The issue is he picked up an illness, which Ten Hag mentioned yesterday, and he wasn't seen on the team bus for Man United when they travelled to Bournemouth. So he is a doubt still for that game. Any ideas, Ake, to someone who you think, Dylan, 5 million? I mean, you're probably looking at Man United defender if you can. So Luke Shaw's a bit above that price threshold, but you could maybe consider a Dalot, for example. Grealish and De Gea out for Bruno and Steele. Already have 3 United. I don't think it's worth it. And David De Gea is the best goalkeeper this week. So As good as Bruno is, I wouldn't do that. I don't think it's worth it. Enciso for a -4, or who would you rather play, Jesus or Isak? I wouldn't do a -4 for Enciso, personally, so I would do Isak to start. Can I start Martinelli for bench max point? I'll be honest, I don't understand the question. Martinelli won't play. Let's just put it that way. He's not going to play against Forest, and he's not going to play against Wolves. It's confirmed by Arteta. So he's not going to get you any points whatsoever. Dergish says Enciso or Ferguson for free hit team. Probably Enciso, but yeah, not a big fan of them generally. Some questions have been repeated and we have answered, so I'm just going to leave them. Just letting you know in advance. Gakpo, Diaz or Eze? Eze, I think. Would you say Stones or Isak gets more points? Stones if he starts both. The issue is he going to start both? And I think it's likely he'll start one and be benched in the other. And I could be wrong, of course, but it's just kind of my personal opinion. I probably would just go for Stones just in case he starts both. Bench Grealish, Rashford or Matoma? Grealish. I'd bench him. So we've got just under an hour left for the deadline. We're at 10 a.m. UK time. The deadline is at 11. So be sure to get your questions in. Try not to spam the chat, otherwise you'll be timed out. Sayed says Stones, Grealish, Botman to Trent, Estupinian, Maris for -8. I like the transfers a lot. The only problem is it's for a -8 hit with 2 game weeks left in the season. But yeah, I think it's worth it. Can I start Martinelli for bench? Yeah, I honestly, once again, I'm not even going to go through that. Jota or Wilson to start? Wilson. Best 4.9 million defender if Trippier doesn't play. I already have Shaw and Estupinian. I mean, you can't go for a Man City defender. They're all 5 million or over. So, best 4.9 million defender. You're really looking at single game week options like Botman or someone like that. Not really too keen on most of them. I'd probably look at Dallo then. I think I said this earlier. Asif says, hello Dylan, sell Trippier plus Watkins and buy Trent and Alvarez for a -4. Slash Martinelli to Mahrez with no hit only. I would do Martinelli to Mahrez. He's not going to play either game remaining, and Mahrez has a double game week, and I would expect him to start 2 of the remaining 3 games for Man City. Grealish to Mahrez worth it? I think so. Sell Martial and buy Fernandes? I would. If you can do it for free, no doubts about it. Who's the captain? For me, it's Haaland right now, which is a bit boring, but I think he scores more points. If I just want to go different and say, you know what, I'm tired of captaining Haaland, then yeah, Bruno would be next in line for me. Welcome, Safir. You bench one of Wilson, Isak, Dallo, and Trippier? It'd be Trippier. I'd bench him. I want to get a Brighton defender, but I don't know who. Estupinian, if you can. I'm sticking with my Rashford and still transfer over David De Gea and Matoma. Yeah, that's fair. And to be honest, it could go either way this week. Yeah, I agree, Lager. It is a hard decision because I could even take a -4 hit. I could roll the transfer. I could buy Alvarez or Mahrez, but then that means selling Rashford. It's a difficult week this week, I think. Is Bruno a must? I wouldn't say so because you can go for Rashford and then go for 2 Man United defenders, De Gea and Go and Shaw, and you could do really well. Start Stones or Trippier? Stones. Alvarez or Enciso for Isak? I would go for Alvarez. If you have Stones in your team, would you start him? I would start him probably over Isak. You think Mahrez could start both games? He could, but look, with Mahrez and Man City, it's always difficult to predict. We all know this. With no Champions League for another, how many days we're talking about, like 20 days or something like that, then there's plenty of time, I think. You've also got the FA Cup final in between, but yeah, the Man City can basically just do whatever they want now in the league and they'll still win it. So yeah, I think Mahrez starts 2 of the remaining 3 games, but does he start both in Double Gameweek 37? I'm not so sure. Stones or Trippier? Stones. 15 points behind first. Isak and Rashford for Mahrez and Alvarez. Yeah, I'd go for it. Si confirminas que Rashford no juega hoy, ¿lo cambiarías por Trippier? Lo que haría yo, si Rashford está confirmado que no va a jugar, lo vendería por Mahrez y ahí todavía tengo a Trippier en mi banco y pongo a Mahrez en mi equipo. Solanke to Greenwood and Grealish to Mahrez for -4 worth it? I guess so. Maybe I'm being a bit too bullish on Mahrez and not giving Grealish enough credit, but yeah. Best asset overall to play the triple captain is probably Haaland, Bruno Fernandes or Mahrez for me this week. Those are the 3 that stand out. Probably in that order as well. Yeah, I think Kepa Arrizabalaga will play. Of course, De Gea will be better. You know, even if Kepa starts both games, De Gea is the best goalkeeper for the remaining 2 game weeks. Rashford or Salah out to Bruno from -4. I would rather do Rashford out, I think, because Salah's a great option for next week, and you want to be in a position where you can buy him back. Eze a good replacement for Martinelli? Yeah, I think so. Trippier and Isak to Estupiñán and Alvarez for a hit? Yes. Kane to Salah? Also, yes. I said this a few weeks back. As good as Kane is, I slightly prefer Salah for the fixtures, and I didn't expect him to do this well, but he has. I'm going for both Foden and Mahrez. Fair enough. Good luck. Hopefully you don't get too much frustration from Pep Roulette. Amabek says, hello Dylan, do you have news about Rashford and Trippier? With Rashford, he's ill now. He recovered from his injury, but he's ill. And as for Trippier, he picked up a knock. We don't know anything yet, but I expect he'll be fine. So I think Trippier plays. As for Rashford, probably unlikely to play against Bournemouth, but he'll be back in for Chelsea. Bench Isak, Odegaard, or Rashford. I would bench Odegaard from those three. Start Trippier or take a hit for another defender. I would start Trippier, I think. Yeah, probably that. Thank you, Ethan. I appreciate that. Patrick says, I have one free hit, but I'm still indecisive if I should play in 37 or 38. I get that. To be fair, I do get that. I don't have Edison or De Gea, and I don't even have Trent. Budget issues. I've already tripled up on Man United and Brighton assets. I think not having Trent this week isn't a major issue, but next week against Southampton away, that's where you'd want to have 2 or 3 Liverpool players. So I don't know your team enough, Patrick, to be fair, but based on the information you've given me, I would say the free hit in 38 might be better for you. Will Stone start? I think he does against Chelsea, but not against Brighton. Shu says, March and Isak for Enciso and Mahrez with 2 free transfers. I'd say yes. I'm not a big fan of Enciso, but Mahrez should be really good. Did Rashford travel? Apparently didn't. In the video that circulated yesterday online, Rashford wasn't spotted, but it's very difficult to answer. Will Dalot start? I think so, but he might not start both. Is Salah going straight into your team in the first game next season? Difficult to say, because prices will influence things, and the budget and what kind of structure I want to go for, the fixtures as well to start the season. So it's not guaranteed, but it's likely. Martinelli doesn't play the season. Yeah, we covered that. Best 3 Man City assets: Haaland, Mahrez, and maybe Ruben Dias. I think Alvarez is just behind them. Why do you have no City players? I've got Haaland, and I'm looking to maybe buy a second or third if I decide to take a hit, which I'm not a big fan of. Rashford and Isak to Mahrez and Alvarez for -4. Yes. Start White or Trippier. Trippier. Dawson, Alvarez, Garnacho, Bruno, Mahrez in for Mitoma, Rashford, Watkins. You said Mitoma twice there, so I'm not sure who the other player is. I wouldn't sell Mitoma this week for a hit, and even for Rashford as well. Taking a -8, getting rid of both of them doesn't sit right with me. I'd rather have Rashford than Garnacho still. I like Alvarez, Bruno, and Mahrez though. Those are great transfers, but Garnacho in for either Mitoma or Rashford isn't great in my opinion. Start Rashford or Wilson. Rashford. What is a better, Martinelli, Tony, Maddison to Trossard or Odegaard? Wilson and Mahrez, or Martinelli, Tony, Maddison, Rashford to Alvarez, Fernandes, Trossard and Odegaard. I'll be honest, I kind of got lost in all of that, so I'll try to answer to the best of my ability. I probably would go for Wilson and Mahrez looks the best, I think. Bench Isak or Trippier? I'm benching Trippier, so that's my answer. Mitoma or McAllister? Mitoma, but McAllister's more likely to get higher minutes, should we say, and more starts. Kepa to De Gea or Isak to Alvarez, both from -4. Yeah, I'd rather do Isak to Alvarez, I think. Remove Isak or Wilson for Alvarez? I would rather remove Isak. Bench Rashford for Isak if Rashford doesn't play the first game. If we get confirmation of that, then yeah, I think that could be worth it. Isak against Leicester or Rashford against Chelsea, you'd probably give Isak the edge. Rashford, still for me. What about Stones and Dalot? I think Stones starts the first game, not the second, and I think Dalot starts one. He's not guaranteed to start both. Isak to Enciso, not a bad transfer, but I'd rather keep Isak. Do you reckon Trippier will start? Yes. Do I buy Mahrez or De Bruyne? I'd rather buy Mahrez. Sell Martinelli to Mahrez or Martinelli to Bruno from -4. Probably Bruno is my slight preference. No early team news at the moment. If we were to get any team news, it would be 15 minutes before the deadline. So we're talking about 10:45, so in 37 minutes time, soon to be 36. Remove Isak or Wilson for Alvarez? I would remove Isak. Some questions, by the way, like I said before, we have covered. We've even highlighted them, so you can see that we're answering it. I'm not going to repeat questions because it does get a bit boring for viewers. Isak and Mitoma out for Fernandes and Enciso -4. I'd say no. I like Fernandes, but I think Isak and Mitoma are better than Enciso. Rashford start, not in the first game for me. Start Eze or Wilson. Wilson. Should I captain Mitoma, Rashford, or Haaland? I'd probably say Haaland. If you want to chase, then it might be worth going different, but I'm not a big fan of captaining Mitoma or Rashford this week. And speaking of the devil, I need to change my vice captaincy because it's still on Rashford. Diaz or Stones? Diaz is more likely to start both, so I'd go for Diaz. I would go for Mahrez there, Mohamed. Sterling over McAllister? No. Start Wilson or Isak? Wilson. Rashford could start 1 out of 2 games? Yeah, that's the most likely scenario. Best replacement for Rashford, already have triple City. You're probably looking at Brian midfielder then, if you don't have them already, so Mitoma or McAllister. Bench Wilson, Isak or Eze? Probably Eze. It'd be between those lot. So yeah, I'm going to change my vice captaincy at least. I'm also going to put a poll out, so be sure to let me know your thoughts. So I'm just going to get this up now, and you can let me know your thoughts on this, and a lot of you will be in a similar position, I'd say. So let's get this up. All right. And I'll be having a look on Twitter as well when possible, seeing if we can get anything. We have over 100 viewers and only 58 likes. Be sure to keep on smashing the like button, get this video over 100 likes. We have answered many questions already, probably in the hundreds. So be sure to rack this up and also to subscribe to the channel as we get closer towards 19,000 subscribers. And then the next big goal, of course, is 20k. I'm going to put a poll out now. Let's see, start poll. These are my transfer plans, just for those that are also coming in now. So roll is a very clear one. Roll the transfer. And Isak to Alvarez. Let's see if I can put the arrow. Isak to Alvarez. Rashford to Mahrez. And that's another thing I could do, actually. Rashford and Kepa. To Mahrez and David De Gea. That is a -4 though, so if I can make that clear. -4. Just about. So yeah, transfer plans, I'm going to put it now in the poll. I've basically got 4 options. Roll the transfer, Isak to Alvarez for free, Rashford to Mahrez for free, and Rashford plus Kepa to Mahrez plus David De Gea for a -4 hit. So I think those are my transfer plans. I might be forgetting 1 or 2 other things I could do, but like, for example, Trippier to Stones or Ruben Diaz, but I think I'm going to stick with that. So I'm going to put it in the poll right now. Let me know your thoughts, and I'm going to go back to your questions, and I'll also keep an eye out, like I said, on any team news as well. So yeah, Mac Drac, you can see my transfer plans now in the poll. You can also vote and you know, let me know your thoughts too on that. But I think the most likely scenario for me is either rolling or getting Alvarez in for Isak. But I'm open-minded to all of those options, of course. At the moment, the -4 option is winning, but we'll go back to that later on. Salah vice captain, I'm not against it. The thing is, I think his ceiling is lower than a Bruno Fernandes, for example, or even a Mahrez. But yeah, he's a good option. He always is, especially in recent weeks. Morning from Mauritius, says Yogesh. Trippier to Shaw for free, Martinelli and Isak to Alvarez and Mahrez. What do you think? I like the Trippier to Shaw move for free, but Martinelli and Isak to Alvarez and Mahrez look fantastic as well. I'd probably go for the City players, so Alvarez and Mahrez in. Sell Salah for Bruno. If you can get Salah back in next week, I'd say yes. Mahrez or Foden? Mahrez. According to Yahoo Lifestyle, Rashford ruled out of the Bournemouth game. I'm not too sure, you know, what sources they have for that information, but, you know, he wasn't spotted in the video that was circulating online yesterday in the team bus. Start Isak or Odegaard? Isak. Start Rashford or Kane? Rashford still. The thing is, don't bench Kane. Honestly, if you can, don't bench Harry Kane. Alvarez or Mahrez, who will play both games? So difficult to say. It could be either one of them. Depending on De Bruyne's fitness, you know, if De Bruyne is not available for either game, I think Alvarez is more likely to start both. But it's really difficult to predict Pep Guardiola. Would you say Martinelli to Bruno and Watkins to Alvarez from -8 is worth it, says Luis Gerard? Yes, I think it is worth it. Trajan says Martinelli to Mahrez and roll the other transfer, or Rashford to Bruno and Isak to Alvarez. Both are good moves, but I'd rather do Martinelli to Mahrez, especially if, well, yeah, the other one would be free anyway. Yeah, I'll just do that. Why won't Trippier play? No one said he won't play. I didn't, at least. Alvarez or Mahrez, who will play both the games? We just covered that. Captain Mahrez, if you're looking to go different, I'd highly recommend it. KDB, March, Greenwood to Bruno, Mahrez and Ciso, or Bruno, McTen and Alvarez. It would be Bruno, McTen and Alvarez. I think that's the better move. 6.1 or below midfielders. You're not really... I mean, you're looking at bright midfielders, so Mitoma and McAllister. That's about it. And if you're looking at single gaming players as well, then Eze. Should I remove Salah for Bruno or hold? I'd do it, as long as you can get Salah back in next week, would be the simple answer. Thank you, FPL Diamond. I always appreciate the kind words. Should I do Isak to Greenwood to fund Grealish to Bruno for -4? I like Bruno a lot, but I'm not so sure because what does this mean in terms of who are you starting instead of Isak as well once you make that transfer? That's what I'd like to know. I like Bruno for -4, even with getting Greenwood in and selling Isak, but I'm a bit unsure. Dylan, is it a good choice, Rashford out, Gundogan in? It's not bad. And look, with Gundogan, he's one of the more likely players to start both for Man City, but still not a guarantee. I'd probably keep Rashford. Watkins or Isak? Isak. Is Rashford a sell? I'd say just about a hold, but obviously it's a bit difficult. If he's confirmed to miss out the first game, he's going to be really, really heavily transferred out. Kepa to De Gea for a -8. Not a big fan of hits for goalkeepers. You know my opinion on that, but I do think De Gea outscores Kepa by 4 or more this week, and therefore it's one of the few instances I'd say, yes, it's worth an additional hit. Isak to Alvarez and Raya to De Gea for a -4. Yeah, I'd say yeah. And by the way, to Dida, so just to make it clear, if Kepa to De Gea is a -8 hit, which means you have to sell Rashford as well, and then you sell Kepa as a Balaga to get De Gea, definitely not. I wouldn't do it. But if you've already taken a -4 hit and you're doing Kepa to David De Gea for an additional one, that's where I'd say yes, it's just about worth it. Start Steele or Edison? Probably Steele. Whom should I bench, Grealish or Wilson? I'd bench Grealish. Should I start Wilson or Salah? I'd start Salah, but of course either one is capable of hauling this week. Bernardo Silva, Mahrez in midfield? Mahrez. Stone's a good pick, yes, but he might not start both. Would you sell Salah for Bruno? I would, provided you can get Salah back in for 38. Start Isak or Jota? Isak. Bench Mitoma or Wilson? I bench Wilson. Brian midfields make me sick. They have been poor recently, that is true. Should I triple captain this week? Well, you've only got 2 opportunities left. There's more rotation than 38. And of course, there's no double gameweek, so I would use it now. And yeah, you got Haaland, you got Mahrez, Bruno Fernandes. I don't know who else you have in your team, but those would be my top 3 this week. Who is necessary this game week? I wouldn't say either's necessary, but they're both great, consistent options. I'd rather go for Salah this week, sorry. Best City defender? My favourite is John Stones, but I don't think he's as likely to start both as Ruben Dias or Akanji. Sell Rashford to Mahrez Gundogan for a -8. I would go for Mahrez if you decide to go for that hit. I'm not so sure if I would take an additional one for that, though. I'm in a similar predicament. I'm not really too keen on it. I'd probably just keep Rashford. If you really want to go gung-ho, go for Mahrez. Kepa or Raya? I'd go for Kepa. You can also refer to some of these questions by looking at my team on screen. I've currently got Raya on the bench and Kepa starting. Mitoma for me this week. Edison and Rashford out for David De Gea and Mahrez, or Edison and Mitoma out for Steele and Mahrez? I would go for David De Gea and Mahrez, basically. You think Bobby will start? It's difficult to predict. I mean, it is his last home game, so you think from a sentimental point of view, he's got a good chance, and Liverpool still have a good chance of winning the game, even with Firmino starting. So, yeah, he could be a nice punt for the last game. You know, I've seen a few other people mentioning it. I'm not completely against it. It's just, I look at Isak, Wilson, I think they'll outscore him. Also Alvarez and a few others like that. Trippier or Gakpo? Trippier. Why are you keeping Kepa? It's not ideal, mate. It's not ideal, but the reason why is because the only goalkeeper I really want is David De Gea, and I can't get to him without taking a -4 hit. Awani has a very crazy differential. It's not I think he could do well against Arsenal. It's not a bad move. He's actually been quite good in some of these bigger games. Scored a few against Chelsea, scored against Liverpool early in the season in a 1-0 victory. I'm not completely against that. Just once again, like with the Firmino punt, I just prefer other forwards this week, and that's why I haven't talked about him enough or, really highlighted him, but he's a decent option. Best trio of forwards for this week: Haaland, Alvarez, and Wilson, I think. If Rashford doesn't play, should I put Burn or replace from -4 to Mahrez? I mean, if we get that confirmation, then I'd be more inclined to take a -4 to Mahrez. Martin to Odegaard or Anthony? Anthony has a double this week, so he might be the better one for Gameweek 37, but I'd rather go for Odegaard. I think he's going to do really well in 38 and do okay maybe in 37. Yeah, I think that's just about worth it. But Trippier's got a good chance of falling in 37. Alvarez or Isak? Alvarez. Double United or Brighton defence? United. Gundogan or Mahrez? Mahrez. Alvarez for captain. I'm not so sure if I'd captain him, but he's a good option. Team: Kepa, Raya, Shaw, Trent, Estupinian, Trippier, Botman, Salah, McAllister, Mitoma, Grealish, Rashford, Haaland, Isak, Greenwood. 2 free transfers, 1.1 million in the bank. What would you do? You're in a good position because you don't have Bruno Fernandes, so that maybe makes your decisions easier. You can buy him still, but I would do Kepa to David De Gea, and your other transfer could be Grealish to Mahrez. Yeah, I think you're in a great position there, the fantasy football lad. So Kepa or Raya to David De Gea and Grealish to Mahrez. Start Wilson and McAllister. I would probably still start McAllister. I seriously don't know what to do with Grealish and Stones. I'd probably sell Grealish to get Mahrez, but keep Stones. Captain Mahrez or Bruno? Probably Bruno, but I'm really conflicted about that one. Honestly, it could go either way. The reason why I'd captain Bruno is because I know he's starting both games. With Mahrez, I don't have that same feeling. Botman and Isak out for Akanji and Alvarez -4. Yes, would be my answer. But Akanji and Alvarez aren't guaranteed to start both games. -4 for Isak to Alvarez and Saka to Fernandes. Yes. Isak or Alvarez? Alvarez just about. Wilson or Alvarez? It's even closer. I think I'd go for Alvarez. Edison or De Gea? De Gea. What to do with KDB for Bruno and Rashford is KDB to Mahrez and Isak to Kane. I don't understand the middle part of the question, I'll be honest. What to do with KDB? Sell for Bruno, I'm guessing that is, and Rashford to KDB to Mahrez and Isak to Kane. Would I sell KDB to Bruno? Not necessarily. I mean, unless you're convinced he's not starting either game, then I would sell him. So yeah, from those options you mentioned, I'd go to Bruno or Mahrez, basically. KDB in for Salah? Probably not. Rashford to Gundogan, Mahrez for a -4. Rashford's not giving returns and Gundogan seems to be in form. I'd go to Mahrez if you want to go, if you want to sell Rashford. Which two should I start of Trippier, Isak, and Grealish? I'd definitely start Isak, and then it's between the other two. Grealish has the double game week, and therefore I might just start him in case. So yeah, Isak and Grealish. Isak or Gakpo? Isak. Rashford to Mahrez or Saka to Mahrez? I'd rather sell Saka and keep Rashford. Morning, Dylan. Should I... wait, let me get through this then. Wilson or Isak? Wilson. Ethan says, morning Dylan, should I take a -8 for Grealish to Bruno and Isak to Alvarez? Then I would bench Mitoma McAllister. Already done Henry to Shaw. Should I take a -8 for Freakish to Bruno? Yes, I probably would. You don't need to take it for Isak to Alvarez, but I think it is ultimately worth it. I'm still debating whether to do Isak to Alvarez for -4 or not. Yeah, I understand. I could do it for free and I'm still in two minds about it, so I can understand your frustration. Yeah, Ethan, I just highlighted your question. You're spamming the chat. I don't know why you're doing it. Gundogan or Alvarez? Based on current form, you would go for Gundogan, but yeah, I'd probably go for Alvarez this week. I've got a good feeling about him. Harry says I'm 40 points behind in the mini league, but got my triple captain. Who should I use it on? Bruno, Haaland, or Mahrez? But if you really want to claw back the gap and he's going to captain Haaland, then I'd probably go for either Bruno or Mahrez, and it's close between the two. Bruno's more likely to start both and get more minutes, but Mahrez is arguably more explosive. So it's a tricky one. How tempted are you to sell Rashford? Not that tempted, to be honest. The only reason why I like the idea of selling Rashford is that it enables me to go for David De Gea in goal, but it means a -4 hit, which I'm not a big fan of. At the moment, in the poll, which nearly 200 of you have voted in, the most popular move is Isak to Alvarez, which is what I talked about in my team selection video. In second place, the -4 option of Mahrez and De Gea in for Rashford and Kepa is there. In third position is Rashford to Mahrez for free. And in last place, it's roll the transfer, because that's always kind of the boring one. No, Mitoma is not essential, and he might not even start both games. Starting Enciso or Wilson? Probably Wilson. Isak to Alvarez or Isak to Enciso and Mitoma to Mahrez for a -4. I would go for Isak to Alvarez. Is Diaz likely to score more than 4 points over Trippier? If he starts both, then yes. But I think Trippier will get a good return. And there, it makes it difficult for Diaz to outscore him by that margin. Grealish to Anthony. I mean, Anthony, he has been, how do I say this? He has the haul in him, we all know this, but I think he's scored 1 Premier League goal in 7 months. That's enough for me to put me off from buying Anthony. I might be wrong about that. It might be 2 Premier League goals, but either way, 1 or 2 Premier League goals in 7 months. That's awful. It's Salah and Grealish to Bruno Mahrez for a -4 worth it? Yes, but Salah, I think, will haul in this game. Start Isak or Trippier? I'm going for Isak. Gundogan, Alvarez and Konate in for Stones. Grealish and Kane for a -4 in order to fund Salah to Saka next week. Yeah, that's fair. Not a big fan of selling Stones to Konate, though. But I'm guessing that's to get Alvarez in and also Gundogan. Haaland could easily get a hat-trick versus Chelsea in return from the bench versus Brighton. Yeah, of course. We all know the dangers, and some of the Chelsea predicted lineups I've seen are woeful. You know, it could be a 3-4, 5-0 thrashing, even more potentially. Raphael says worth to take a hit to get Salah in for Gameweek 38. Yeah, it is worth getting Salah back in for a hit. Yeah, in 38. Yeah, of course, there's a chance Ake plays, but with Pep, you just never know. Yes, this week is the end of my relationship with my Mitoma. Yeah, that's fair. Sell Salah for Bruno. If you can do it for free, then yes. What is the reasoning behind keeping Rashford? Because, I mean, yeah, I can sell him to Mahrez, but Mahrez isn't guaranteed to start either game as well. So if I'm selling Rashford, who's probably going to play 1 game, to Mahrez, who could play 1 as well, it's not really the most exciting transfer or the most... I don't know, I wouldn't have too much confidence in that. Will Haaland start both games? I think he starts 1. And look, with City, honestly, I'm not even going to try to predict them because I could get it completely wrong. But I think he definitely starts 1. And he's one of the more likely to start both, but I wouldn't be able to tell you. What is the reasoning? Yeah, we just went for that. Should I captain bench boost? Should I activate the bench boost? I have 4-star Porro, Odegaard and White. I mean, I don't know how your bench would be like next week and what your starting 11 is, but it's an okay bench. You should get 10-15 points, which is fine. Yeah, you can activate the bench boost. You've got to activate it now or next week, so it's up to you. I would just highly recommend using FPL.team and visualize how your bench looks like next week, and also bearing in mind what transfers you're looking to make, because your bench might look better next week. And if that's the case, then consider that as well. Garnacho, good punt. Yeah, he's a good punt. I wouldn't say Bruno's essential this week, but he's in the top 3 options for Gameweek 37. I'd say 1. I've got a sneaky feeling Ortega comes in for either the final game against Brentford or against Brighton. Foden and Brighton forward, or Alvarez and Mitoma. Alvarez and Mitoma. Gakpo or Rashford? Rashford. Which Man City midfielder asset should I bring in? Probably Mahrez there, Ethan. And hopefully you're having a good morning too. Who would I start? Enciso or Botman? Enciso. Thank you, Laga. I appreciate that. Thanks for an amazing season with you, though. Not sure I'll be here for the last game week. Enjoy your summer and God bless you. I appreciate that, Lager. Enjoy the summer break and yeah, good luck with your final game weeks. Thoughts on De Bruyne? I don't think he starts both games. I think he'll get 1 start. A bit similar to all these Man City players we talked about today. Start Stones or Mitoma? Mitoma. I'm full for my mini league. Should I play safe or risk Bruno or Alvarez captain to catch up? Well, if you're trying to, you know, go up the ranks, it might be worth taking a punt, and I would go for Bruno captain out of those 2. Grealish to Mahrez for free, or Grealish to Bruno and Isak to Grimmer from -4 still have Wilson. Grealish to Mahrez for free looks slightly better. Yeah, I'd do that instead. Who to triple captain this week? Haaland if you're trying to maintain rank and play safe. If you want to go a bit different, I would say Bruno Fernandes or Mahrez with Mahrez being the most risky of them all in terms of minutes. Should I start Mitoma or McAllister? Probably Mitoma, but McAllister's more likely to start both. I think Kepa's starting. Is Bruno must-have? No. Alisson to De Gea from -4. I don't like goalkeeper transfers for hits, but I think that's fine. Kane, Grealish, Stones out to Salah, Trent, Greenwood from -8. No. I like Salah and Trent a lot, but you're getting rid of 2 double gameweek players there and Harry Kane. It's not worth it. Just can see the most chances down the middle. Is there any case to be made for a differential captaincy option if you're chasing rank? Yeah, there is, because you're not going to gain too much from captaining Erling Haaland, and Haaland could be benched against Brighton. And there are still occasions where Chelsea, or should I say Man City, are facing a team that can see a lot of chances down the middle, and yet it's the wingers or someone else like Gundogan popping up from the midfield that get the goals instead. And you've also got Bruno Fernandes and a few other options from other teams. Best captain, probably Haaland, but apart from him, you're looking at Bruno and Mahrez, I'd say. No updates on Rashford, really. I haven't talked about him in the team selection video yesterday. It's all the same. He returned from injury, but he's ill, and he's a doubt for the game today. De Gea, Shaw, Bruno, or De Gea, Rashford, Bruno? At this moment in time, I'd say De Gea, Shaw, and Bruno. So 2 United defenders, or defensive coverage. Yeah, I would do that for a -4 and get Bruno in. Best defender this week, probably Shaw. Best captain we've covered. Mahrez better than Fernandes this game week. I'm not sure if he's better. I'd maybe give Bruno the slight edge, but it's close. Martinelli to Mahrez or Raya to David De Gea? I would do Martinelli to Mahrez. Morning, John Paul. Salah and Andres Pereira to Mahrez and Bruno for a -4. Or Salah and Greenwood to Alvarez and Bruno for a -4. I would do the Mahrez and Bruno option for a -4 there. Rashford for Anthony for a -4? No. Rashford or Grealish to Mahrez? I'd rather sell Grealish and keep Rashford. Best free hit team? I made a video on it 2 days ago. Check that out. Mahrez has a good record against Chelsea. Yeah, he got an assist, I think, off the bench in the reverse fixture this season. Play Wilson over Trippier? Yes. McAllister or Rashford? Normally it'd be Rashford, but this week I'd maybe give the edge to McAllister based on minutes. Rashford to Mahrez or Isak to Alvarez? I would do... probably Isak to Alvarez. Does Gundogan start both? Just got him in for a -4. Should I captain him? He's one of the more likely to start both, but I can't tell you for sure. It's really close. Not sure if I captain him, but he's in great form. He's got 2 double-digit returns on the bounce. And before the Real Madrid game, he was basically assisting or scoring every single one of Man City's goals. Isak or Odegaard? Isak. I have Haaland, Gundogan, and Mahrez on my free hit this week at the cost of Rashford. That's fair, Patrick. I don't really see any issues with that. Trippier or Grealish to the starting 11? Probably Grealish, just about. Rashford to Bruno for a -4. Not sure if I'd take a -4 hit for it. Maybe just about, but not too sure. Because you need Bruno really to do very well against Bournemouth for that hit to pay off. And who's going to convert the chances that Bruno creates? Maybe he has to score himself, but it's a close one. Best 7.3 million City or United player midfielders? Probably Gundogan. He might be a bit more than that, isn't he? Double check that. Let's check. Yeah, Gundogan 7.4. Yeah, it's not really looking too great there. Yeah, it's a tough one. But Gundogan would be my ideal one. Mahrez, what's he? If Mahrez is in that price threshold, yeah, Mahrez is 7.4 as well. Mahrez and Gundogan for me are the best ones. I'd say Mahrez is the best. Yeah, I don't mind Mahrez captain. If you're looking to chase, he'd be up there. My only concern is minutes. Enciso or Anthony over Rashford on free hit? Probably Enciso. I mean, Anthony's only scored 1 Premier League goal in 7 months. Is Grealish to Mahrez worth a -4? Yes. Hi Dylan, is it worth doing Isak, Mitoma and Raya out for Enciso, Mahrez and De Gea for -8? I have Kepa but don't trust him. But I completely get that. Ideally, I'd also do something similar and sell him to De Gea. So yes, I think it's worth it ultimately. The only issue is you're selling Mitoma and Isak, and I think they could do well this week. Yeah, I think so. If he starts against Southampton, I think he hauls. Isak or Gakpo? Isak, yeah. Odegaard to Fernandes or Man City midfielder, Grealish, Gundogan, Mahrez. I'd go to Fernandes. Will Trippier play? I think so. Steele or Kepa? Steele. Xhaka to Curtis Jones. I mean, someone around that price, why not? But it still remains the case that McAllister and Matoma are the best midfielders around 5 million. Yeah, Gibbs White is a decent shout, but would I buy him for McAllister and Matoma? No, because they've got a double game week, and I don't know, I just can't see myself selling a double game week player for Morgan Gibbs White against Arsenal. John Paul says, morning Dylan, Salah and Andres Pereira, Mahrez and Bruno from -4. We have answered this, John Paul, and I've gone for the first option you mentioned. So Mahrez and Bruno in. Steele or Kepa, once again, already answered. Salah to KDB, Rashford to Mahrez. Rashford to Mahrez looks slightly more appealing to me. Does Grealish play? I think he starts 1. And with Man City, honestly, it's very difficult to envisage who's going to start both. I'd say Haaland's the most likely. Mahrez captain over Haaland to climb in league rank? Yes. KDB and Joelinton to Bruno and Gundogan, or Joelinton and Trent to Bruno and a 5 million defender, or -4. I would go for the KDB and Joelinton to Bruno and Gundogan option. Isak to Alvarez and Rashford to Mahrez? Yes. I'd say yes. Already have McAllister, Matoma. I think Jones is a good punt. Then fair enough, you know. With Xhaka, I mean, he's been very good this season, even from an FPL perspective, but I think that's a decent punt. I think Jones, his haul had a lot to do with Leicester, and I think it will be harder for him to haul against Aston Villa, but if you feel that way, go for it. Foden, 20+ points this week, watch. I hope not, but good luck to you. Will Rashford play? I think he plays against Chelsea, but not against Bournemouth. Edison to De Gea or roll? I'd buy De Gea. Buy a Kanji Farake for a -4 or play Trippier? I'd just play Trippier. Triple captain Haaland Mahrez this week, or give it to Salah next week? Salah's a good shout next week, but I'd probably go for Haaland or Mahrez this week. I think that's the best way to go about it. Marcus says Grealish and Trippier to Bruno and Kivior -4, or Grealish, Rashford to Trippier to Mahrez, Bruno, Bueno -8. I go for the -8 option, but either with Bueno or Kivior. Obviously, they're not great options defensively. But yeah, I'd go for the -8, I think. Any other United defenders other than Shaw, De Gea, Dallo, Lindelof? Those would be the 2 best ones, I think. Best triple captain this week, Haaland or Bruno, and Mahrez is kind of in the top 3, I'd say. What's the news on Rashford? We have covered this already. He's ill, basically. He's a doubt for the first game. He recovered from his injury, but he's now ill. Henry or me, it would be probably Ben Mee, I guess. He scored against Spurs last season for Burnley, but it's really close. 2 good fixtures left for Liverpool. I just hope Jones pops up with the odd assist. Yeah, that's fair. It's just when I look at the Villa game, at least, I'm not a big fan of Jones there, but I think against Southampton he could do really well. Martinelli to Eze? Yeah, good transfer. Play Botman or Gabriel? Botman. Is Mahrez for free worth it more than a -4 for Bruno? Yes, I'd say so. You think Rashford plays on 38? Yes. He's ill after all. He's recovered from his injury, so he's not going to be ill to miss 3 games, basically. It wouldn't make sense. Will Chelsea draw against United? I think Chelsea could draw against United, of course. Against City, there's no chance. Let me put it that way. I think there's more chance of City winning by 6 than Chelsea getting a result, in my opinion. I'm not trying to be rude, but that's just the way I see it. I think against United, I could see a 0-0 or 1-1. That's more likely. I think Chelsea and United draw quite often, but yeah, against City, no chance. Start Trippier or White. Trippier all day long. Don't think there's a debate there. Do you really play Isak over Trippier? I mean, it's really close, but probably. I have a good feeling about Isak. Isak or Grealish? Probably Isak. Play Kepa or Johnston? Kepa. Will you do Isak to Alvarez? I'm in 2 minds about it. I mean, currently it's winning the poll, and it was my proposed transfer, my team selection video. I might end up doing it, but I don't think there's a clear standout move for me this week, and that also includes rolling the transfer. Hi Dylan, Isak to Alvarez or roll the transfer? Probably Isak to Alvarez, but that's assuming he starts both. Abhishek says, Rashford didn't travel with the squad, however, is believed to have travelled down separately. His fitness will be decided this morning after falling ill yesterday. Yeah, that makes sense. I'm not too sure about the source and everything, but let's wait and see. I will have a look and see if any reliable sources have, made a point of that, but I appreciate you putting the full message there. Let's see. Yeah, I'm just having a quick look on Twitter very briefly. We've got 20 minutes left, 21 minutes left for the deadline. So just yeah, I'm having a quick look still. So bear with me for a second. I know the questions will be piling up a little bit. Keep smashing the like button on your way out if you are obviously locking your teams right now. And also subscribe to the channel. Yeah, I haven't seen anything yet, to be honest. I haven't seen anything yet. Yeah, so literally Abhishek, I think it was, who posted the message. The source that you quoted literally says, news source, so can't fully guarantee it, but I do trust it personally. So literally, it's not concrete. It's not something we can basically base transfers off. It's still in doubt, really. But let's wait and see. Hopefully it's true, and Rashford has travelled and has a chance of starting against Bournemouth today. But yeah, I haven't seen any confirmation, no early team news and stuff like that. Yeah, okay. So I also need to lock in someone else's team as well on their behalf. Also keeping an eye on that. So yeah, I'm actually just going to lock in the teams now, I think, or at least the other team. Let me just get this up. Over is here, yeah. And 2 free transfers next week. Yeah, I think that's the way to go. Yeah, okay. I think I just locked in that team. I think that's all good. Yeah, it's a tricky one. All right, let's go back to your questions. What do you prefer for Arsenal, Rice or Caicedo? I mean, with Xhaka on the way out, I think Arsenal need 2 or 3 midfielders. They need someone anyway to challenge Xhaka. They needed someone to challenge Xhaka for that left centre mid role. I mean, honestly, I know it sounds a bit mad, but I honestly want 3 midfielders. So I'd want both of those and a midfielder with more quality in the final third. And look, I have a feeling Arsenal won't get both. I think Man United, and Man City, Chelsea, you know, a club like that will probably swoop in for one of them. But it's difficult. I think they're different players. I mean, who has more potential? It's difficult to say. Maybe Caicedo, but Rice is better right now. I mean, they're both really good players. I'd like both. So, yeah, it's difficult for me to say. Different profiles. They offer something completely different. I think Rice might be a bit more suited to the number 8 role that Xhaka plays in. So Caicedo could sit at the base of the midfield. But honestly, it could go either way. So start Odegaard or Rashford? Rashford. Who to start, Isak or Jones? Isak. Start Salah or Isak? Salah, but don't bench Isak if you can. I mean, it just depends on who else you have starting. I mean, benching Isak isn't the end of the world, but don't bench Salah. Who to start, Rashford, Trippier, Solanke? Rashford. Yeah, be sure to lock in your team soon if you can. Best United player after Bruno and Rashford? Luke Shaw. Who to start? Yeah, some questions are literally repeated and spammed. Not going to go through them. Grealish or Gundogan? Gundogan. Sell Martinelli, Kepa to Mahrez, David De Gea, or Martinelli, Isak, Mings to Bruno Alvarez, defender from -4. I'd go for the first option, which is for free. I do like the -4 as well, to be fair, but probably the free transfer's better. Akanji for bottom for a -4? No. Solanke for Martial? Not a bad move. I think Martial could be a decent punt for the first game, but yeah. I think that's just about enough. Matoma, McAllister, and Eze start 2. Matoma, McAllister. Who to start, Isak or Jones? Isak. Yeah, you're literally repeating the question. I'm doing gamble, put Trippier over Rashford in the starting 11. That's fair. It could be worth it as well. Trippier does have a lot of ownership, but his effective ownership won't be that high. I think this week a lot of people will bench him. Welcome, Daryl. Is today a good shout to play triple captain, and on who? Yeah, I mean, you've only got 2 game weeks left, and this is the only double you have. So I'd say Haaland. Yeah, Salah and Bruno are good options too. I'd say Haaland first, Bruno second, and Mahrez third. And Salah's the best of the single game week options too. Best Man City defender, really difficult to call. I would probably say Ruben Diaz or Akanji are the most likely to start both. No team news out yet, as far as we're aware. Awani or Isak? Isak. I'm doing Wilson in for Isak. What do you know, or what do you think? That might be a week too late, and Isak could do really well against Leicester. But look, who would you rather have right now? It definitely would be Wilson. He's on penalties too, but I'm not so sure. I think there's better transfers to make this week, or you could even roll and have 2 free transfers for 38. De Gea in for Kepa for free, or Fernandes in for Grealish for -4? Great question, really close. I'd probably do De Gea in for Kepa. Play triple captain this week or bench boost. I would, once again, it's difficult for me to say because I don't know your team, so I don't know who's on your bench this week, how it would look next week, what transfer you're looking to make in 38, and, you know, whether your bench looks better now or in 38. So I just recommend using FPL.team, visualize your team for 38 and your proposed moves, and then make a final decision. If your bench looks good for 38, use it then. Use the triple captain now on a double gameweek player and go for Haaland or Bruno, someone like that. Is Kane okay for this week? Yeah, of course he's okay. He's okay in any week, to be fair. Thank you, Najimi, and good luck. Play Isak or Rashford this week? Rashford. Well, what would you do? Or would you do Grealish to Mahrez for free, or is it too much for a sideways move? I think it's worth it, to be fair. Matoma McAllister to Mahrez is a good move. Yeah, the problem is, whoever you sell, it could backfire because McAllister's more likely to start both, but Matoma, I think, is more likely to haul, provided he has a similar amount of minutes to McAllister. So it's difficult. Matoma McAllister, I just about prefer Matoma, but like I said, McAllister's more likely to start both. Play Rashford or Trippier, Rashford. Matoma to Gundogan or Grealish to Gundogan or Kepa to De Gea. I would rather do Grealish to Gundogan out of those outfield transfers, but I think Kepa to De Gea is the best overall. What 2 should I start out of Trippier, Isak and Grealish? Isak and Grealish probably. Welcome, Arthur. Anyone bringing Alvarez won't captain Haaland? I'm not sure about that, because if I was to bring Alvarez in, I'd captain Haaland still. Rashford play or not? I don't think he plays the first game, but honestly, it's probably going to come down to a late fitness test. We don't know enough information. Worth punting Gundogan over Mahrez to chase mini league leader 20 points ahead? Well, the thing is, Mahrez is still relatively low owned. If you know the league leader has Mahrez and you want to go against him, then yeah, I'd go for Gundogan. The best choice for triple captain, Haaland or Bruno, I'd say, with Mahrez being in 3rd position. Play Kilman or Gabriel. Not really a big fan of either this week. I don't necessarily expect a clean sheet. I probably would go for Kilman there. Probably a better chance of a clean sheet, just about. Close one though. Start Walker or Botman? Walker. Play Kilman or Gabriel? Yep, you just asked that. Isak to Alvarez and Rashford to Mahrez, please. Yep, it's fine. Enciso and De Gea or Anthony and Steele on a free hit? I would go for Enciso and De Gea. Grealish, Mahrez or Gundogan? Mahrez for me. Play Trippier or Isak. You can see on screen, I'm going for Isak. Play Isak or Gakpo? Isak. Mahrez, Rashford, Fernandes, Matoma, McTen, decent midfield. It's arguably the best midfield you can make this week. The only players you're really missing is probably Salah. Sell Trippier to Shaw or Isak to Alvarez for a -4. It's a close one. It's really close. I think I'd rather do Trippier to Shaw, I think. Yeah, I think Haaland starts both, but honestly, I'm not sure about it. Is it fine to go without Bruno? I mean, it's not the end of the world. You can still get a green arrow without him, but it will be tricky. No, I don't think Bruno's essential. I would highly recommend him this week. I think he's in the top 3 options for the captaincy, but I wouldn't say you have to have him, otherwise you're doomed. So yeah, having 2 free transfers next week is a good thing. Start Odegaard or Isak? I would go for Isak. Should I start or Kepa or Raya? I'm not sure what that is, but I'd start Kepa. Best nailed City defender? None of them are really nailed at this point in time, but I'd say Diaz or Akanji, based on who I think starts both of these games. I think I'm rolling. I have the same team as you, with Mahrez instead of Bruno. Tempted to do Isak to Wilson, but I'm stick with and roll for 38. Yeah, I mean, my kind of differential move this week, maybe not differential in the community because it seems like everyone makes the same moves, but it would have been Alvarez in for Isak. I'm quite happy to roll as well. Chasing a 38-point lead. Captain Fernandes or Rashford? Probably Fernandes for me. Am I okay with only 6 doublers this week? I mean, it's a decent amount. Here's the last double. If you can get 1 or 2 more, but it's not the end of the world. I wouldn't take massive hits to get 7-8. Will Gundogan start? Yeah, I think so. Isak to Alvarez for free. Yeah, good transfer. I've been talking about it all week. De Gea, Rashford, Bruno, or De Gea, Shaw, Bruno. Close. I'd go for De Gea, Shaw, Bruno right now. Foden, Cher, and Solanke out for Bruno, Shaw, and Enciso -8. Yeah, I think it's fine. I mean, it's a shame, Punjabi, but it's over already. You know, City literally just need 1 win of the remaining 3 games. Arsenal have done well this season. They've, pushed above their weight, exceeded everyone's expectations, but I think the way they crumbled since April is a big problem because it happened last year with the top 4 race. I think mentality needs to improve. What do you think about Anthony? Not a big fan. He's got 1 Premier League goal in 7 months. Not a big fan. Of course, can he haul this week? Yes, he can, but just not really that confident. I'm on 170k. Is -8 too much for chasing 100k? I mean, you can still get Green Arrow with a -8 hit, especially for bringing in Mahrez, Bruno Fernandes, and players of this quality. But yeah, obviously, with 2 game weeks left, the appeal of hits is definitely reduced at this point. I have Grealish. Should I play him or transfer him out for Mahrez? If you can do it for free, I'd sell him for Mahrez if you can. Start Trippier or Isak. You can see on screen. Trippier to Shaw for -4. Yeah, it's fine. I think it's a decent move. How many games will Edison play to the end of the season? I'd say 2. I think Ortega comes in for 1. That's the problem. Otherwise, I'd bring in Edison right now for Kepa. Willock to Arsenal mids or Gakpo? Arsenal mid. So Odegaard or Martinelli's out. Yeah, Odegaard or Saka, with Odegaard being the standout. Bruno or Mahrez? Bruno. Kepa, Trippier, Rashford to 3.8 million goalkeeper. Shaw, Bruno -8 thoughts. Yeah, I like the Shaw and Bruno moves. That's enough for me. Can I start Martinelli for any bench player points? I mean, if you start Martinelli, he will come off anyway because he's not going to play. So those on your bench will come on anyway. Don't know how else to answer that. I think we've gone through that 3 or 4 times. Salah to KDB for a -4 is a good. Not for me. Triple captain Haaland or Fernandes. Haaland if you're looking to maintain your rank and play it safe. Fernandes if you're looking to just go gung-ho and chase maybe a big lead or something like that. Odegaard or Wilson, who'd you back? Wilson. Sock LH says, good morning, Dylan. Curious on why you're so high on Alvarez compared to Martial or even Enciso. I believe he starts 1 out of 3 max. I think Alvarez starts 2 of the remaining 3 games. That's just my opinion, so that gives you an inclination or an understanding why I prefer him over Martial and Enciso. Martial has been pretty hit and miss this season. You know, he had a decent start where he came off the bench and made an impact, but he's so injury prone and he's not even a guarantee to start these remaining games. Enciso is still competing with several players. If Solly March returns, I think Enciso could be benched in 1 or 2. But yeah, Enciso's fine, but I think Alvarez has a high ceiling. If he starts, he's got a really good chance of getting hauls. Should I start Grealish, Burn, and Trippier, Solanke, or Henry? I just start Grealish, I think, and the alternative is to start Trippier. Good morning, Dylan. Mahrez or Anthony captain? Mahrez. Isak to Alvarez or Wilson for a -4? I'd rather go to Alvarez this week. Captain instead of Haaland, Bruno or Mahrez. Garnacho deserve a risk? Yeah, it's worth a punt, but he's not my favourite. Trippier or Stones? Stones. Trippier and Rashford doubtful my team. Should I play bench boost? I mean, they could still... I mean, in Rashford's case, he could still start 1 game this week. I think Trippier will be fine. Yeah, you can still play bench boost. It just depends on who else is on your bench. How would it look in 38 with your proposed transfers? Sell Odegaard to Mahrez and bench Isak. Yeah, I probably would. The thing is, I like Mahrez, or should I say, I like Odegaard a lot for 38 against Wolves. Start Rashford or Trippier? Rashford. Kepa or Raya to start? I'm currently going for Raya. I'm currently going for Kepa, sorry. Yeah, Kepa could get -points against Man City, that is true. But Raya away to Tottenham, I think Spurs will score. Is Wilson to Alvarez good? Yes, it is good, but I can understand why you're in two minds about it. I'm currently keeping Isak and not making a late move. Why not doing Salah to KDB? Because KDB's a doubt. He's not going to start both games, in my opinion. If you think he will, fair enough, go for it. But I just don't see the appeal. And I want Salah back in for 38. And I've got other moves that could be better for me and my end of season rank. Do you think Rashford and Ake will start both games? No. Do the triple captain. Haaland if you're looking to maintain rank. Bruno or Mahrez to go a bit different and be aggressive. Gundogan or Bernardo? Gundogan. Isak to Alvarez versus Rashford to Gundogan, Mahrez, Foden, 2 free transfers. I would rather do Isak to Alvarez. Benching order for my free hit enablers, Greenwood, Gay, and Totti. I mean, Greenwood would be last. It'd be Gay first, Totti second, and Greenwood third. KDB to Mahrez and Burn to Shaw, Trippier to Shaw, or Stones to Shaw, Isak to Alvarez. Kind of got lost in there, I won't lie. Burn to Shaw, Trippier to Shaw, Stones to Shaw. I'd go for the last one, I think. So Stones to Shaw and Isak to Alvarez. Yeah. Okay, just dealing with spammers. Isak or Wilson? Wilson. Should I start Kepa or Pope? I would go for Kepa. Would you do Isak to Alvarez from -4? I don't think I'd do it for a -4. Even for free, I don't think I'm doing it. Obviously, I'd love to take a punt. And to be honest, having one Man City player in this double gaming feels too thin. But the issue is, all of them are, you know, how do I say this? They're not guaranteed to start both games, and a lot of rotation could happen. Best City player this week that's not Haaland? I'd say Mahrez is my gut feeling. Thank you, Singh. Watkins to Enciso. Yeah, it's a decent transfer, not my favourite. I might roll myself this week, JR. It's not the worst thing in the world. I'm going for Kepa over Raya. So yeah, we've literally got less than 4 minutes left. I'm going to have a quick look on Twitter, see if we've got any confirmation. Yep, I don't see anything at all on Rashford, which is a bit of a shame. But yeah, could go down to a late fitness test. And if that's the case, he's got a chance of starting today. But yeah, it's not looking good. So yeah, we literally got around 3 minutes. I'm going to be locking in my team now. We have covered pretty much all the topics here today. You know, Kepa versus Raya, best Man City players to buy. Should I sell Isak or Wilson to Alvarez? All of these things we have covered. So yeah, I'm now just going to locking my team. I still can't find any news, which is maybe we're just being a bit too over-relying on news. This will make things a bit more interesting. But yeah, I think I'm going to keep Rashford, and unfortunately that means no Mahrez this week, who I think could do extremely well. Even Salah to Mahrez as a 1 week punt is not, you know, the worst transfer in the world, but yeah, I think Isak to Alvarez is probably one I'm more likely to do. Yep. All right, so yeah, I think it's really what I'm going to do in the end is Isak to Alvarez. That's, if I were to make a transfer, that is literally what I do, and that is leading the poll as well. So thank you to those that voted. Over 500 of you have voted in the poll, so I appreciate that. Be sure to smash the like button on your way out. Let's try to get this stream to as many likes as possible. Have a quick look at where we are at the moment. Yeah, we've got over 100 likes. Let's try to get this stream to over 150. That'd be massively appreciated. Yeah, I wish I could do, you know, Raya or Kepa to De Gea, but unfortunately I just can't do that without taking a hit, and I don't think it's worth it. So yeah, it's Isak to Alvarez or roll the transfer for me, and it's just going to be a last-minute decision. Rumours Shaw didn't travel. Yeah, I saw something yesterday about Shaw, Casemiro, and Rashford not travelling. I'm not so sure how, you know, reliable that is. Anthony or Mahrez, definitely Mahrez all day long. Captain Mahrez or Haaland. Mahrez if you're looking to chase, Haaland if you're looking to maintain and you're happy to be safe. Mitoma and David De Gea or Steele and Rashford. Mitoma and De Gea look better. Start one I'd go for Trippier. Start 2, Trippier, Wilson, Trent. I'd go for Trent and Wilson. Trippier, Dalot or Shaw. It'd be Luke Shaw all day long. Hours returning 6 games all season. Yeah, when he hauls, he does really well. The problem is, as you say, he hasn't really been that consistent in the Premier League because his minutes have been inconsistent. Will Kepa start both? I think so. But he is my biggest weakness in my starting 11, without a shadow of a doubt. Grealish to Mahrez for a hit? I think so. I think so, just about. Captain Mahrez, I reckon he has a higher ceiling than Bruno. Yeah, that's fair. And I agree with you, actually. The problem is, the reason why I'd favour Bruno Fernandes is because I know he starts both, and with Mahrez, I don't have that same certainty. Grealish to Mahrez for a hit. Yeah, we just covered that. Trippier, White or Dalot? I would go for Trippier. No, I'd go for Dalot for the double, then Trippier, then White. Can I start Martinelli for any bench player point? Yeah, I don't know if it's a different account. It's the same question. I don't even know what else to say. Yeah, we're locked in now. I haven't done any of the transfer. This is my final team. So Kepa's in goal with Raya as my backup goalkeeper. I've got Luke Shaw, Trent, and Estupinian as my back three. A midfield 5 of Rashford, Salah, Bruno Fernandes, McAllister, and Matoma, with Isak and Erling Haaland up front. And my bench is obviously Raya, Trippier, Botman, and Greenwood. This is where I need McAllister to deliver because I brought him in last week and it's prevented me from having 2 free transfers this week, which ultimately has prevented me from getting further Man City assets as well. So, boring, Erling Haaland captaincy, Bruno Fernandes is my vice, and there we go. Let's see how this week goes. And yeah, I'm quite excited to wrap up the season, and hopefully next season we've got a bit more of a interesting season and campaign with more variety, but I have a feeling it's going to be even worse, but let's wait and see. Yeah, deadline close. Thank you, TM. I'm starting Alvarez. Good luck there, Pavle. And Dan Kid, yeah, we are locked in. Thank you, Ruben. Moved from 2.5 million to 383k in just 10 game weeks. That's really impressive stuff. Yeah, we can go for predictions very quickly. Spurs, Brentford. With Brentford being away from home, I don't see them winning the game. I think it'll be either a draw or a narrow Spurs victory. I'm going to go for 2-1 Spurs. Yeah, that's my gut feeling. Bournemouth against Man United as well, with Bournemouth being technically on the beach and securing safety. I think Man United win this game, especially if Rashford's in the lineup and there's a huge boost and all of that. I'd go for maybe a tricky one, isn't it? I'd maybe have to go for another 2-1 there for Man United. Fulham against Crystal Palace. That's a really tricky one, actually. I might go for a draw here, so a 1-1. Liverpool against Aston Villa, 2-0 Liverpool. Wolves against Everton, probably a 1-0 Wolves. I know, well, to be fair, Everton are going to be fine for their lives as well. I'm going to go for a 1-1 here too. Nottingham Forest against Arsenal. Nottingham Forest have a lot more to play for. Arsenal, no pressure, pretty much. There's nothing to lose. No Martinelli, though. No Zinchenko. No Saliba. I think Nottingham Forest win 2-1. Might even be a 3-1. West Ham against Leeds, I would go for... That's tricky. West Ham are kind of safe already, but they're at home. Leeds obviously fighting to survive. I might go for... It's kind of tricky. These games are really tricky to predict at this stage of the season, but Leeds concede far too many goals. They're not keeping a clean sheet. West Ham will score. I might go for a West Ham 3-2. Brighton against Southampton. Despite Brighton struggling against Southampton in recent years, I'd go for a 3-1 Brighton. Man City against Chelsea, 4-0 Man City. It could even be 5 or 6. I'm going to go for 4-0. Newcastle against Leicester, I'd go for another comprehensive victory here. I think 3-1 Newcastle. And Brighton against Man City. If Man City goes strong, I know it sounds crazy because Brighton are a good team, but I think Man City could score 3 or 4 because the way Brighton play, I think, is perfect for Man City. I think, yeah, 3-1 Man City. And Man United against Chelsea, 1-0 Man United. That's my predictions, kind of rough. Some of them I'm not too sure about. Spurs Brentford could be 1-1, for example, but I've just given you my rough predictions there for all the games. And that is my team locked in for Game Week 37, the last double game week of the season. When Gundogan over Wilson. Yeah, fair enough. Good luck. Hopefully it pays off for you. And yeah, look, Sonojo, we are locked in. Abiaso, we are locked. Fue un gusto haberme pasado por aquí. Como siempre, que tengas un buen game week y también un buen día. Abrazos parcero. Gracias, Abiazul. Buenas tardes y disfrutar la temporada. Ya falta poco. Currently 60k, hopefully can get higher. Yeah, good luck. I'm kind of in a similar thing where I've just struggled to really push, higher and get into the top 50k. I've been around this rank for some time now, maybe because I've been too template. Thank you, Abhishek. I appreciate it. And may the arrows be green for you too. 2-1 Spurs. Yeah, I think so too. Gundogan Hall incoming. Hopefully not, but it's quite likely. Decided to sell Willock, Martinelli and Kepa to Fernandes, Mahrez, De Gea and started Eze over Matoma. Final 2 game weeks, time to enjoy. I hope it goes well. Good luck, Dylan. Likewise, Cylindra. Good punts there and some very good players. Harry says, West Ham had tons of alcohol and huge platters of food after the Europa Conference League semi-final. Be very surprised if they play a strong team. Yeah. That could be the reason why Leeds get something. I'd probably change that to a 2-2 draw, by the way. Not just because of what you said, but I'm kind of in two minds about that game. Klopp's absence to hurt Liverpool, in your opinion? I think they'll be fine, to be fair. At Anfield, 7 wins in a row, 9 unbeaten. The second best team at the moment in terms of form. Yeah, I'd say it wouldn't be a big issue. Lager says, I went for Martinelli to Mahrez and Isak to Martial for a -4 hit. Not only that, but I benched Rashford. Oof, good luck, mate. If Rashford is starting today, I think, yeah, you'll be hiding behind the sofa. But good luck. Hopefully those punts pay off. I think Mahrez will be a great move. Will Chelsea come back strong next season? It's difficult to say because we haven't seen the transfer window, how the other teams will do and stuff like that. But I think Chelsea will make a big improvement. They'll finish in the top. They'll definitely be in the top 8. I think they'll be maybe 6th or 5th. Kind of a initial prediction. I don't think they'll finish in the top 4, but with Pochettino, assuming he comes in, I think they'll make a big improvement and they'll lay the foundations for a big step for the season afterwards, should I say. So, yeah, I think they'll be better. I don't think they'll be strong necessarily, but I think they'll make a big improvement. Soccer H says, I took a hit to do Salah to Bruno and Elise to Mahrez. I hate not having differentials. That's fair, and that could be really good for you. Good luck in Gimmick 37. Alvarez and Mahrez and for Rashford and Isak for -4, but I didn't consider it. Yeah, looks good, to be fair. Thank you, Awali, and good luck to you. Enjoy the rest of your day or night in Nepal. I think it might be the night. Nick N says, thanks to the stream, Dylan. Pickford, Trent, Shaw, Stupinian, Akanji, Salah, McAllister, Rashford, Mahrez, Holland, Captain, Martial. Looks really good. Not a big fan of Martial, but he could still do well today, so good luck. Thank you, Zaid. Good luck to you as well. Hope De Gea can cover Bruno a little bit. Honestly, I mean, I'd rather have De Gea over Rashford, let me put it that way. And Bruno hasn't been great this season, but in double game weeks, he can come into life. Grealish 20-pointer incoming. I highly doubt it, but if you're right, fair play. Realistic, Mahrez and Alvarez returns this week. I'd say Mahrez gets 2 or 3. I think Alvarez scores against Chelsea, but I'm not so sure if he starts against Brighton as well. And even against Chelsea, he might come off the bench and score, but it might just be a 4-pointer. So it's just so difficult to predict with Man City. I didn't go for it, but I have a feeling Firmino hauls this week. Yeah, that is true. Facing Aston Villa as well. I'm kind of, as an Arsenal fan, I'm happy to see the back of him. I'll be honest, but obviously he's been a great player for Liverpool. Mr. Iceman says, hey Dylan, I've had the best week in 36, 128 points, took a punt on Sterling, and I still have a free of 38. Really good stuff. I think I saw someone else, it might have been Patrick, who said 128 points and he got a big green arrow. That's really good to see. I only got 98 points, which is okay, but still not enough for a green arrow. Morning, by the way. Hope everyone is good. Thank you, Harry, and likewise to you. And we've covered pretty much everything here to talk about for Double Gameweek 37. I'm going to head off now to watch the games. I don't know why, but there you go. It's not all about winning, I guess. I mean, I'll be honest, in football, maybe with the teams I support, there's always this expectation to win. But at the end of the day, I'm going to back my team. Thank you very much for watching this video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and smash the like button on your way out. Let's try to get this stream to over 150 likes before ending it. And let's also share this video around with those that love FPL and UCL Fantasy. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM, and check the links in the description below for the Patreon, channel memberships, Discord server, and the FPL League. A huge shout out for those that sent in super chats like Carlos earlier today. And also for those that are signed up as a member on Patreon and also as a channel member on YouTube. Your support goes a long way to supporting the channel. And also we can make improvements in terms of the microphones and also the setup. and it also helps with everything else. So thank you very much for those of you that make this possible, and I hope hopefully you enjoy Game Week 37, do very well, and have a great end to the season. Get those green arrows, and also for UCL Fantasy, content will be headed your way very soon for Matchday 13 in that competition as well. I wish you the best of luck, like I said, for Game Week 37. Enjoy the football. I'll see you very soon, and if possible, I'll do a reaction stream tomorrow for the reaction stream for FPL. But take care. I'll see you very soon in the upcoming deadline streams and videos.